Rhys stepped into a hall at the foot of the stairs, revealing a wide passageway of carved red stone and a sealed set of obsidian doors, veins of silver running throughout. Beautiful. Terrifying. Like some great beast was kept behind them.
Hi, and welcome to Twin Flames Between Worlds podcast. My name is Tabitha.
And I'm Liesl.
Hi, and welcome back to A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas.
Woo!
Welcome back. Also, if hopefully my audio is a little bit better, my dad pointed out to me that I'm loud, and so the mic that I use on my headset is it doesn't drown me out or mute me as much. So I'm trying this setup. I still have my cat ear headphones, but we're trying this to make sure if it, sounds better on my end. So I knew this would happen once I got a mic. This is why I never am giving them because it's fine. It was fine before. Yeah, so welcome back. We hope everybody's had a great time since we last saw each other. The summer solstice just passed. I wanted to let everybody know.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I realized it and I was like, oh shit. Yeah.
I didn't play the Tarquin, darn it.
I know. I didn't do anything. I worked on the summer solstice, so.
Sorry, Tarquin.
Yeah, sorry, babe. Yeah, so let's get into it. We're going through chapters 19 to the end of 24. So this will be a big biggie, but like a lot of things happen. But not as much action-y things, but definitely a lot of thrilling scenes, if it makes sense.
Yeah. Still going along with the lore a little bit, a lot of information, but like we're getting a little in between here.
Right. So previously on A Court of Wings and Ruin, we met up with the sisters again, and that went as well as nobody thought it would.
Yeah.
Nesta's still bitchy. Elaine is now depressed as hell, and they were talking about Highburn and talking about their next strategies and whatnot, and how their goal now is to use Nesta to repair the wall, because if they repair the holes in the wall, then the cauldron can't break. And then we had the big old dinner scene, which I thought was so funny. The whole scene was great. Rhys tells us that what's coming up, which is not in this section, but it'll be in the next section. Rhys tells us we have to go to the Court of Nightmares, which, because we have to ask for, I love how I'm saying we, us.
We're part of it. We're basically part of it as the readers.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel about it. I just thought it was funny as I was saying it now. And so, yeah, we have to go to the Court of Nightmares to ask for Kier's aid, because obviously we need everybody that we can get.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's where we ended. Rhys and Feyre were walking through Valaris, and now we're to the next morning.
Yep.
So let's get right into it.
Sounds good.
So we start with Feyre waking up to Rhys before training with Cassian right off the bat. Rhys drops her off at the House of Wind. Girl, I don't know about you, but like, I wrote this in my notes. Waking up to getting eaten out by a guy is a phrase I never thought I would have to ever say or write down, but I'm glad I did.
I feel like that's gonna be a common thing.
Wait, me writing down shit or him eating her out every morning?
I feel like that is something that Rhys and Feyre like just do, so you're probably gonna write it and say it a lot more.
Well, yeah, because Rhysand is apparently ravenous in the morning, which we knew that.
Well, we knew he was ravenous all the way back in the cabin.
Yeah, but this is couple shit right here. This is, because, like, she has, like, a glow when she's dropped off with Cassian. It's like, well, I hope you have enough energy for me.
I know, it's very telling.
Though, interestingly enough, as Cassian and them start to move, like, away, he's very on edge. And she doesn't really understand it, and, like, until we get into it, but it's very much not like him.
Yeah.
He's always kind of a jokester, but now he's legit upset.
Right, which we haven't seen yet, really.
Right.
At least not towards her.
Right. Which I think I like this about, like, there's a lot of things in this section where I'm like, I'm glad she added this. Because I feel like it shouldn't be this perfect unit. I think what makes them so perfect is that they're imperfect.
And that they communicate.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Also, just want to let everybody know, Cassian taking off his shirt so casually. I just want to, announce that.
Yeah, I saw that in your notes and I'm just like, okay, I was expecting that.
It's not important to the plot whatsoever, but it's just,
important to Tabi.
It's not important to the plot at all. But I was like, just want to let everybody know Cassian takes his shirt off while they're talking, and I noticed it. So Cassian is legit upset at Feyre and Rhysand for letting everybody go into Hybern blind about her High Lady status, which I kind of agree with.
But like, there's also the thought of would they have actually been able to change anything if they knew she was High Lady? They were still already protected.
I don't think it was anything, like, I think after his explanation it made more sense, but right off the bat I was agreeing with you. I was like, would it really have changed? I mean, I guess she wouldn't have gone in, but also she needed to go in because she needed to nullify the cauldron, so honestly, whatever. So, because as he further explains this, he says that as each other's mates, like, they protect each other, but as a High Lady, I don't want to say that they didn't protect her, because you're right, Cassian also said, like, I would have died for you, even before I found out you were High Lady, but, like, now she is everyone's responsibility.
Yeah.
Not just to protect in a more possessive way.
Right. It's not just doing it because before is because they were friends and, there was a level of, like, respect in terms of, we're friends and you're also Rhys's mate, so we respect you for that. We also love you. You're part of our family. Versus now it's, like, also a level of duty because she is their High Lady. She's higher than them.
Right. And I mean, I think this is leading into, like, the real reason why he was upset about it. Not because he didn't think that she could handle herself, but it makes so much sense. Like, at first she doesn't understand and she's actually upset. But he saw everything. Because if we remember the end of Mist and Fury, it's like her and Rhys were having they couldn't mind speak, obviously, but they knew each other so well that she was basically monologuing in her head that she didn't think that she was essential to their group. That everyone had a purpose but her. And the fact that he calls this out hella, even though he didn't hear her thoughts, he is very observant.
He is. A good judge.
He says, you did not think yourself essential. It triggers him about Under the Mountain when Rhys went for the party and didn't tell anybody.
Right.
Which makes so much sense because Rhys didn't tell anybody and then look what happened. He was enslaved for 50 years.
Yeah.
So obviously knowing she could take care of herself wasn't the issue. It was like the fact that she was in spring and they could do nothing about it and that they didn't know what would happen.
Right. So it was a trigger to his trauma.
Also the fact that he describes how Rhys was in a panic. He's like, oh, he looks cool now, but like he was in a goddamn panic every moment you were gone.
Sweet, but also kind of like such a brotherly thing to do, throw him under the bus.
Oh, the fact that they had words about this, like if he wasn't injured, he would have kicked his ass.
Right. They had words about it, and probably once Cass was healed, he had some more physical words to say.
I love how, and I didn't really put this in my notes, but I liked this. I like how he talks about Rhys, because, again, not everybody's Daemati, but Rhys is kind of constantly in their head. And when Under the Mountain happened, he talks about it going quiet.
Which is terrifying.
Like there wasn't a presence there anymore, like there always was. And then when he says that he woke up, when he woke up after 2 weeks from the healer after Hybern, he said it went quiet again. I was like, ooh, I don't know why, but that hit a chord in me.
Yeah, it's like Feyre had become a presence in his mind as well. Which is super sweet.
Way more essential than she thought she was. She wasn't.
And I think that, this may just be like a theory, but I think once she swore in as a High Lady, she officially kind of got the power that comes behind the title as well, on top of the power that she already had. And because of that, both Rhys and Feyre have that presence over them just because of their title as well. So I think there's multiple levels to the presence in Cassian's head.
Yeah.
And all of the ways are super sweet and also kind of super sad when they go quiet.
I know. Yeah, because that, they're essential to each other. Because I feel like if he feels like that, the others do too.
Right.
Also, he brings up a really, really good point about how everyone is legit worried that Rhysand is just on a suicide mission.
Yeah.
That he's going to, whatever it takes, even if Kier says no or whatever, even if every High Lord, even if Kier and his Darkbringers he will still sacrifice himself for everyone because he thinks that rather me than somebody else.
Right.
And it's like, babe, what is this suicide suicide mission. Why?
And the fact that everyone in the inner circle knows it, and he doesn't seem to, like, understand that they all know it. So he's, like, trying to be, like, all broke of, like, I'm just gonna get it done, whatever it takes. And they're just like, bitch, stop.
Or it's like that person who's like, I'll take care of it. It's like, well, what do you mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you, like, tell me?
By that.
Anyway, so as soon as they get to, or, like, their end of their conversation resolves to a really good point, who appears in front of them? Immediately his mood shifts to a very playful, he said, purring, care to join?
There's many layers to that. Of course, like, we think that, like, they're gonna be together. But also, like, feel like I mentioned it last episode, of Cassian is doing this to, like, make Nesta, like, have emotions and stuff and piss her off, just so she's has these emotions. But I also think it's, like, Cassian, like, doesn't want her to see any kind of, like, weakness or anything. On top of the fact that Cass and Feyre obviously have a closer bond, and so they can talk more comfortably, whereas Cass clearly knows that Nesta is some kind of threat as well, so also in his mind, general mode of, like, she's a threat, I gotta keep an eye on her.
Well, yeah, because also it seems like she takes any weakness and will call it out immediately.
Mm-hmm. And he is just like, nope.
Especially when they're talking about something so important, like, nope, let's stop talking about that.
Time to get full.
Because I just love seeing them play. Even though when I first read this, I was like, don't be mean to Cassian, you fucking bitch. Right. I was like, I see it differently. So that's why I'm taking it differently. Mm-hmm. So anybody reading this for the first time, I do not blame you if you do not like her at all. We thought the same way. So
there's
no faults of anybody's.
The same way.
Oh, yeah. Also, I think this is so we've always called them the Bat Boys, but I want to say this is the first time they ever, Feyre described them as bats in her mind before. Mm-hmm. But, like, Nesta is the first one out of the series yet to legit just call them bats.
Right.
There's where Bat Boys come. I love how immediately Feyre sees them kind of at odds, and she pleads to Rhys in her head, please get me out of here.
Right. Please. Which is exactly how Rhys pleaded to her back in the mortal realm.
Mm-hmm. It's like,
well, he didn't really say that, but he was just like, well, as much as it's interesting, like, I really don't want to see Cass versus Ness again.
I think it was, and I think when she said it here, I think it was more of a joke.
Yeah.
But then he actually sends he sends Az early.
Right.
And I didn't think she expected that, but it was a welcome reprieve.
He was being a doting mate.
He's like, but what will you give me though if I do this? If I do this?
She's already given you everything.
I know. So Az comes early, and so he, like, just appears in shadow, and I want to say I love this because he's like, not as beautiful, Rhys says this to her. He's like, not as beautiful as face of mine, but a close second. And I love how he put Azriel above Cassian, like, immediately. Okay, that's how you rank them. Okay.
Az is beautiful.
No, he's gorgeous. Okay, sorry, we'll get into that. I'll tell you but so he's saving her from, because again, they're gonna do their first flying lesson, which this is so cool. Not only are we getting more of Azriel, but I don't know, we're getting more from him, not only just in a personal level, because I feel like he's the one we know the least about.
Yeah, like, we even know more about Moore to an extent.
And we know more about Amren than we do Azriel.
That's true.
And they're she has a lot of questions.
Yeah, I mean, same girl.
So he takes her away. Cassian does not look happy about that at all.
He's like, wait, we were still trading. It's like, no, your focus is elsewhere, dude.
It's like, nope, it's over. So they go to, like, this clearing with, like, a river or something outside of Valaris. Mm-hmm. And it's cool that when they start talking, remember how in the last book when it was the first dinner scene, and Cassian said, oh, you're glad that I'm teaching you because Azriel's, like, ruthless. Mm-hmm. I think he's ruthless in that way that he's not like Cassian who's social, so you can kind of get out of things by talking. Like, no, he's
very to the point.
Yeah, which is hot, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that that's bad in any way, but
it's just different.
She, like, is stalling a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I love how because remember when she first summoned her wings beforehand, it was kind of like she was doing them because she looked at Rhys's. Now she actually has to frame them. Like, she has to mold them so that they can actually fly. So it seems like before they were more just for show, and now these ones are meant to actually be used.
To actually hold hold her, which of course she'll have to work out the muscle for, but...
Also, I want to appreciate just the fact that how about the muscles that she brings up, because maybe this is the realistic part of SJM that I really love. It's like she adds a practical element to a fantasy. And that's like the biggest birthday cake in my brain in terms of my practical nature versus my fantasy nature.
Right. It's not just like a, boom, I have wings. I can fly all of a sudden. Just push me off a cliff. I know how to...
Or it's like, oh, I'll figure it out through the power of belief. It's like, okay,
yeah, don't forget your faith, strength, and fairy dust. Like,
it's like,
no.
This isn't a Peter Pan situation where, like, if I douse myself in fairy dust, will I be able to fly? He is legit saying that I have to build ass, core, back, leg muscle. He's like, why do you think the Illyrians are so fit? And I'm like, yeah, it makes total sense.
And it does make me think about, though, the fact that Az had to learn so late about flying makes me wonder if, like, he was, like, actually a really scrawny kid. Because, you know, he didn't have any chance, really, to, like, exercise other than, like, in his... where his family kept him. You know, he didn't get to fly, so he didn't have, like, all those exact muscles. So it's, like, it's kind of like a... I don't know what's the name. Let's just say it's just really impressive to where he is now.
Oh, yeah. As one of the, I would say, what out of the two best Illyrian warriors in the land, that's badass.
Yeah.
So I love how he's also just a polite boy, because as he's like looking at her wings, so I know you're not an Illyrian, but we're not really supposed to touch females' wings. So that makes me think, I'm like, do the guys just touch each other, or can they just kill each other if they touch a guy's wings? Is that what the protocol is? Because it almost seems like to me the whole wing thing is like the equivalent would be in real life if a guy just came up and like grabbed my tit. That would be their equivalent. It's supposed to be seductive, but like gross.
But you guys do that to each other all the time, so it's fine, right?
So maybe it is fine with them to grab each other's wings.
Or, like,
I don't know,
it's
but
like the case of, I mean, you know, like guys wouldn't just go up to another random stranger guy and do that. So it's like if you're close enough with each other, like you can touch each other's wings. But then, yeah, with the level of females, like you always gotta ask for consent, that kind of thing.
Which he's being a polite boy and he's asking her to touch her. I said, girl is gonna be bad because I love you know how much I love Cassian. But Az is that kind of mysterious, hot biker boy aesthetic of, I said that just for you, by the way. That I just don't know much about, but I'm thinking to myself, also just like a smooth talker somehow. I feel like he's probably the most dangerous out of all of them, especially when it comes to the bedroom.
Yeah, maybe.
What a great point to let the audience know if you didn't know this. SJM had an interview a long time ago when she was doing Court of Wings and Ruin. I know too much about this woman's life. And where she said that Azrael is the kinkiest out of all the characters. Sirens went off in Liesl's brain. It's like, oh, okay, I already liked him already.
Well, I liked him before you even told me that little tidbit long ago.
It's like, that just confirmed what I already knew.
But it's
also,
like, I was so excited we finally get an Az scene. Solo Az scene.
Mm-hmm. I'm also just excited for his level of, I want to hear more of his story. I can't wait, because, you know, SGM is kind of highlighting on all their lives now, so I'm excited to see where that goes, and I think it's going to be wild. I did think of you as soon as I read his scarred hands were feather-like. I don't know why, but like I immediately put you down and I was like, yeah, Lisa will like this. I don't know what it is about like a big ass man who has scarred hands but that can be gentle at the same time. That's like a hell of a turn on. So I thought of you.
Oh,
now this is how I feel during every Cassian scene. Now you get to feel what I'm fucking talking about. Being called out all the time.
Well, I'm not as verbal about it as you are.
I know. I'm making you verbal about it.
That's true. You're making me call myself out.
Well, you're welcome. The last thing I have to say is, so they can't really do much in their flying scene because obviously she's got to go back Cassian and build up those muscles. But I do love how he doesn't want her to drag her wings. Not necessarily because it's bad form, but it's also because he said, like, what if you get shit in your wings? Because, like, they could damage them.
Right.
If they drag.
Which probably means he learned from experience about that.
Which I didn't even fucking think about, bro. I was like, yeah, why does that matter? Oh, yeah, I mean, they could get bent. I don't know much about aerodynamics, but I definitely know that even, like, the smallest bend in something could cause it to just...
Well, I guess I was thinking, like, more severe of, like, if you, like, accidentally hit it on a sharp rock or something.
Oh, and just fucking lost that wing.
Well, not that, but like just tearing it, you know, because if the tips are dragging on the edge, even like a small cut just in the edge of the skin, like, I mean, if you think about like a paper plane, what I used to do as a kid was I would make paper planes and then I would purposefully cut squares and like triangles out of the end tails so that it would fly different. And so that's exactly what I'm imagining if you accidentally tore Illyrian wings.
The human equivalent of tearing an ACL.
Right.
It's like the most pain you can ever like imagine.
I mean, if you remember, like, Feyre was already talking about how many veins and stuff were in Rhys's ring. So it's like, if you think about it, those veins, like, those are veins and nerves and everything. Like, even the slightest thing is probably going to send immeasurable pain, which is exactly why, on the opposite spectrum, immeasurable pleasure when touched.
Hate myself.
All right, let's hear it.
The first thing I thought of was Tae Young's hand veins. When you brought up the veins, that's the first thing I thought of. Oh, I hate myself.
No, don't hate yourself for that. That's a good image right there.
By the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, for any of the BTS fans out there, Tae Young's like hand veins are a thing of legend.
Just look up BTS V hands.
He's got some beautiful ass hands, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, I don't know what it is with me today. You're
in some kind of mood and it's wonderful for recording.
Well, I'm doing great. So, anyway, moving on. We go to chapter 20, which is the library scene. Love everything about this.
We do love a good library.
Also, us. Yeah. This is our fucking dream. Big ass library. So basically, the library is underneath the House of Wind. They never really said, but it's in the mountain underneath the House of Wind, which I think is actually kind of cool. It's like a whole mountain. Like, this bitch is deep.
Or if you were to think about it, if it were not under mountain, it basically seems like it is the mountain with how like spacious it is and how big. So it's like if you were to compare it to like taking the library out from under the mountain, it probably would be as high as a mountain anyway.
Yeah.
Which that's a fucking big building.
Oh yeah, definitely. So as Rhys and Feyre are making them, because remember from last time, they need to go down there to research about the wall for Amren. Feyre's like stumbling, hurting from her flying lesson, and girl, this bitch has never been in a library before.
This poor thing. I mean, but she's never been able to read before, so.
Also, can I just remind again the audience how this was supposed to, at first, this was supposed to be like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Bitch has never been in a library, never learned how to read.
I was also just gonna mention, like, the size of the library at first, when I was first reading it, made me think of Beauty and the Beast, how she walked in there and she's like, whoa.
Yeah, because those things went up.
Yeah.
The stacks. They were really big.
Yeah.
So before they actually get to the entrance, because obviously it takes a while to get there, talking about, and I just love this dialogue. I will say throughout this whole, my notes section, I was like, lore alert, because I'm like, oh my god, monologuing for days.
Yeah.
Which I love, don't get me wrong. But they talked, like, it's interesting how somebody who writes about books writes about how powerful books can be. I think that's always really cool. I love, so how they talk about it is on the continent, humans are allowed to, they're free libraries, which, I mean, to us, all libraries are all free.
Right.
But before the war, public libraries are for everyone. And so Rhys was talking to her about before the war, obviously humans weren't allowed in the libraries. And Feyre at first really didn't understand why. You know, the humans aren't as powerful, but the books are the books that are the thing that are powerful, because if the humans got their hands on something, whether it was history, whether it was reading about weaknesses or just actual spells, obviously that would give them an advantage.
But like, my thoughts on that is like, they could have, I mean, if the Fae really cared so much about it, they could have just like taken all like Fae history and stuff like that. And yeah, the humans would still be like ignorant, but at least like they'd be able to read. Like, just leave like the little like fairy tales, non-existent, non-true stuff.
Well, and I joked with you about this, I think, pre-recording a while back. It was I talked about Fahrenheit 451. It's a book they made us read in high school, and it was, I love. It's not only just about the magic, it's a way to oppress people. It's not just about that, like, because you're right, they could have just taken all the magic books, but the bigger reason was, I want to oppress these people because even just a normal book can be influential in a way, give people ideas. I mean, that's why for the longest time in our country, our like minorities weren't allowed to read, because it was like, it didn't really, obviously they weren't going to find anything that was like, yeah, let's bring down the white men. It wasn't, it was the ideas that spurred action,
or
which is something they didn't want.
Right. or the idea of like, oh, they have knowledge, they have access to knowledge, which makes, like you said, makes them have ideas, makes them start thinking, makes them start questioning.
Yeah, 100%. And why would they want slaves thinking?
Why would they want slaves who question and refuse their authority because they don't understand it?
Or yeah, if they find a way to talk back, because, anyway. I love that. I love that in Fahrenheit 451. I love that here. I love that theme, because it's so fucking true. And I'm not saying that every book that I read is some sort of influential, oh my god, this changed my life novel. Some of the smut I just read for smut, bro.
Right.
This is not one of them, but there are more to books than what people think. Off my soapbox now. But so all the Fae, so when they were free, Fae burnt the libraries rather than let the humans have the spells to take on the Fae within them.
So stupid.
So unnecessary.
It makes me so sad, the idea of burning books.
I should have put Fahrenheit 451 in there. I was like, yep, legit. Reese tells us something very important, though, that I don't think that will matter to us much right now, but I think that needs to be kind of in an asterisk saved for later, in like a pile left for later. Humans can have magic if they have a ancestry, which, Liesl's all excited about.
I've been calling it since day one. That the Archerons have Fae ancestry in some way, and probably very powerful Fae. I've been calling that from day one. When I've been doing the editing for the videos, like way back of season 1, I called it very first episode.
Yeah, you did. I wish we could have seen them more as humans to figure that out.
Yeah.
But now, because they're Fae, I mean, they're kind of already magical.
Right, so it's almost like it was like brushed under the rug, but I'm still gonna stick with it.
Well, that means that, like, let's say the next human we come across could have magic, but he also said that some spells don't require magic, only the right words, which I think is something in a fantasy you need to explain, because there's a lot of fantasies where, like, people have to have magic, and then there's ones where, I mean, kind of in Throne of Glass, some people don't have to have magic, but if they say the right words, things will work.
Abracadabra.
Yeah, Avada.
I mean, that's a powerful spell right there.
Why is it the first one? So, moving on, so he also talks about, obviously the humans with magic, but he also talks about the half-breeds, which we've only really talked about Miriam, because remember, she was a half-breed, but a lot of them, after the war, like, what happened when the wall went up? Well, on both sides it was bad. Like, if they lived in the human world, they were ridiculed as monsters, because they were a constant reminder of the war.
Yeah.
And were ridiculed. And then, on the other side, they were seen as basically the lowest you could be in terms of status.
Right. They're basically the new humans.
It's like, so would you rather have would you rather be seen as a monster or rather be seen as lifeless? They're both bad. They're both bad. I feel like honestly, I would rather be seen as the monster.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think I'd rather be seen as the monster because in that sense, I mean, I personally wouldn't necessarily use the fear factor, but the option's there. And then also the fact that, most of the time they're not gonna want to be around a monster, so go off and like live somewhere on your own, but at least you won't have like other people like beating down on you because you're the lowest of lows.
Yeah, and there's probably some freaky ass human out there who's like, hell yeah, with a half-breed. They're just like, I guarantee it.
Probably.
So Reese tried to help the half-breeds, but again, we can't really blame him for anything. His father was the one that was alive post-war, so they didn't take anybody in, but they also didn't take anybody in because Valaris was supposed to be protected.
Right.
And also, I think it's important to bring up that it wasn't very widespread because they didn't want to be seen as good people, because again, their whole lie that even up to now they're still perpetuating is that they're evil.
Right.
Now, if you heard from a brother half-breeds that, oh my god, Rhys-Ann's the best, like, that wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
But Reese promises favor and says, I promise sanctuary for everybody, human, half-breed, whoever.
Sweet boy.
And that's why we love him so.
He's always trying to help everyone, except himself. He doesn't really think about himself much.
God. Who does that sound like? Both of us, honestly.
Yeah. It just means we're good people, right?
It does, but we're self-sacrificing idiots.
Yeah, true.
Not in like the, oh, I'm gonna die for this person sense, but the, oh, I'm gonna give everybody else advice and then not take my own.
I'm gonna give every single part of myself away until I have nothing left but an empty shell.
Dude, that one hurt me because it's so true. Oh, it's so true. This is just the call-out episode. We're just feeling call-out today.
Or deciding that we don't care if we call ourselves out.
True. If you're listening by now, I mean, we love you, so you're part of the fam.
We love you. You can call us out too, but be nice.
Be nice. Yeah. So moving on. Just long tangent. We meet the baddest bitch. Clotho, the main priestess. I fucking love her.
I was with Cora in this one of like a priestess?
Well, no, at first. I say that in meaning like especially after hearing the story.
Yeah.
Like she's the baddest bitch on earth.
100%.
But no, you're right. Feyre gets triggered because she's like, well, Ianthe and her priestesses are the only ones she's ever met.
Or heard of, yeah.
And she also gets triggered because she also has blonde hair and has a stone.
Yeah.
That gem or whatever. Yeah, so that was a little triggering. But she's one of the good ones, we promise.
And Rhys, he realizes a moment later, he's like, oh, oops.
It's like, oh yeah. Well, because also, as we soon learn, these women weren't born to be priestesses. It's like they were saved and decided to become priests. That's like a little bit different than like Ianthe growing up as a priestess.
Right. It's very much of like, people who turn to monkhood after they've been through traumatic experience.
Yeah. They're like the good version of nuns in good society, or in our society. I'm not saying nuns are bad. I'm just saying that...
But we're such a good version of nuns.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Sorry for any nuns that are watching. They're not going to be listening to this.
No, she's just saying stream of conscious. She didn't mean it.
Yeah. No. But what was I saying? I was saying about the priestesses and how, yeah, they weren't born into it. Anyway. Mm-hmm. Also, this library, so she looks over right before she talks to her, and this is levels of darkness and books. Like, she can't even see the bottom.
Yeah, it goes down rather. Well, some go up, but mostly it goes down.
The amount of books is like my wet dream, bro. This place, I could stay in here forever.
You'll just become nocturnal. You'll live in the darkness.
Oh, yeah. So we find out from Rhys that Rhys actually dared Cassian to fly all the way down to the bottom before.
I can totally imagine how that went. I'm just like, I dare you to fly all the way down there. All right, bet. Yeah, it's like, oh, I bet you won't. It's like, oh, I bet I will. He flies down there. He flies back up like, nope.
And he is scared shitless of what he saw. And
whatever he saw.
It's bad if he gets scared. The general.
One of the toughest Illyrians that there is.
Well, because he also doesn't talk about if he saw any. Or because Feyre's like, is it a monster? Rhys is like, I don't know.
Cassian didn't say anything.
And also, Cassian told him not to go into his mind about it, which is so extreme.
Wow. Yeah.
What do you think it was the first time?
A monster.
When you first read?
When I first read it, I thought it was, some kind of like monster. I was specifically thinking Troll Hunters. That Netflix cartoon animated show, Troll Hunters.
Yeah.
Like, there's a moment in there where there is a dark pit and you go down it and like you face your fears and stuff. So I was thinking something like that. And so if it was along the lines of facing the fears, that's why I assumed he didn't want Rhys in his mind of like, we're brothers, but I don't want you seeing my deepest fears.
So you thought it wasn't like a monster necessarily. You just thought it was, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember you saying that. I don't think I ever told you what I originally thought. I thought it was, do you remember the fucking Kraken from Pirates of the Caribbean?
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was that. I legit thought it was a monster that had like a mouth for a face and was just at the bottom of the pit. And so like, let's say if somebody fell down in there, like they'd fall into the mouth. So the reason he flew and he got out safely was because he saw it and was like, oh shit, and then flew away.
Oh, so kind of like a Sarlacc pit.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I was thinking more like along that line.
Either way, Cassian was scared shitless.
So that's what we first thought. Tell us in the comments what you thought it was. It's so funny that when Clotho's basically walking them to where they need to go. I just love how Rhys is, because I think she's a little bit uneasy about being in the library.
Because it's under another mountain.
Yeah, and he talks about how Rhys and Mort oiled up the floor and tried to, when they talk about the staircases, like it has like a railing where it's like, she's like, I wonder if the priestesses ever ride the railing down or something. And he's like, oh, we've tried. And Moore and I oiled up the floor and the priestesses fell and my mom grounded us.
Imagine Rhys getting grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Probably literally grounded. She told him not to fly, maybe.
Tied his wings up. So then he starts talking to her in his mind.
Yeah.
He's like, I come here when I don't want somebody to find me. Like when I want to be by myself.
Yeah, because no one's going to find you there.
Well, yeah, because even if they tried to look for him down there, it would take them forever. So might as well just not do it.
Mm-hmm.
Let him brood or whatever.
Right.
And he said he came there a lot after Under the Mountain.
Probably to get himself used to being under a mountain again.
Can I just love how we're still learning stuff about him even after the big big. It wasn't, like, 54 is, like, a great chapter, but it wasn't just, like, there's more than what he said. It's, like, learning about somebody over time. You can't just say that all in one go. I mean, he said his whole story, but it's not all of him.
Right. He is so much more than just that. He is so much more that happened to him and that he's experienced.
I think that's just the best part about being in a relationship, is, like, even though if you feel like you know all about them, every day I feel like you learn something new.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I didn't know you didn't like ranch Doritos. Like, I don't know. Even
experience?
Oh, I don't like blue ranch Doritos.
Oh. Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh. See, I just learned something new.
Like the dumb shit that you'd think that, obviously this isn't one of those dumb instances, but...
Well, I just learned something new about my twin flame, so there we go.
I know, we're even still learning stuff about each other, so...
Really? I thought you... I suppose that's true. I've never seen you eat them.
Oh my god.
And the one time I did offer them to you, you're like, no.
No, I don't like the ranch ones.
Interesting.
So when they finally get to their destination with all the books and stuff, so before we saw, like, Clotho was kind of hidden, but then when she unveils her hands, girl, it's bad. It's described as fingers are, like, behind and broken in, like, 3 different places.
Yeah.
And she gets hella triggered. And I didn't even think about this. I was thinking, like, obviously something bad happened to her. The first thing Feyre thinks is, oh my god, I did this to Ianthe.
Yeah.
And it's like, but Ianthe wasn't innocent, though.
Ianthe deserved it.
Yeah, she deserved it. Clotho did not.
Yeah.
So obviously she doesn't use her hands at all. She has, like, some sort of magic that helps her. Obviously, yeah, can't use her hands at all.
Yeah.
So basically what Rhys says is that Moore found her. A group of males cut out her tongue and smashed her hands. And I'm going to assume raped her.
Probably.
Assaulted her of some sort, because what was the reason that they took out her tongue and smashed her hands? Obviously they did something to her.
Right.
And obviously if they're men in this universe, I'm going to assume it's the worst that it could happen.
Yeah, fairies probably. Although if it was high, I wouldn't be surprised.
And I'm not even trying, I know you're not thinking I'm saying that, but I'm not even saying that in a joking manner. It seems like that's a common theme with some of these males, which is why the Bat Boys and Rhys are so different. And I would lump Lucian in that mix as well, of guys who don't think like that.
Right.
That think that women are property or anything like that.
Yeah.
Moore found her and gave her to Rhys, because the thing is, yeah, she couldn't scream for help or write anything down or write who it was, but he could see them because of his power.
Right, so he could see in her mind.
Well, they didn't think that she was going to happenstance on him.
That's true.
So Rhys told Moore who they were, and she hunted them down.
I love that.
And killed them. I would assume for days.
Yeah, probably took her sweet time on them.
I also love how it's more, it's not directly said, but I'm kind of assuming that all of these women who are in the library are people that either Rhys or Moore have saved. I mean, it could have been any of the people in the inner circle, but specifically Moore.
Yeah, because Moore has been in that base before. She has experienced that before. So she's like, no way am I letting that happen again, letting people get away with that if I can help it. I mean, because she can't do much about her family right now who did that to her, but like she can do something to help others.
And creating a safe space for people like her that wasn't ever something that she had.
Right. She didn't have it, so she's going to make it for someone else. It's beautiful.
So they did try to heal her hands, but the thing is, because Feyre brings it up, well, Cassian was almost close to death. Like, how did he get saved? So the problem is, kind of like with Azrael and his scarred hands, they healed her as they broke the hands. So they'd have to re-break her hands to heal them. And obviously that's going to be very triggering.
Yeah.
And painful. So she'd rather it's her choice to live with them like that.
And she's learned to cope really well. She's not even just coping at this point. Like, she's living.
It's just, good old magic, bro.
Thank goodness for that.
Yes, the library is a refuge for all the women who the inner circle have saved. It's so sweet that he shared this place with her, because it's not only, now because she's high lady, this is yours too. It's, I wanted to share this with you personally, just us, because you are a woman who, you saved yourself, but we both needed a place like this.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
And sentimental and wholesome.
The fact that he says, I'm very proud of you, girl. The cutest thing a man could say.
and not just say, but genuinely mean it.
Mm-hmm. Also, why is Rysand me? Why is he, every time they have this super romantic moment, he always has to turn it sexual.
He's just horny.
And I love it. Because to him, it's not just, I mean, obviously, yes, it is being horny, but also, it's just genuinely how he feels about her.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they forget, like when they say something sentimental, then he's like, ooh, but she's mine, so, you know, I can take her between the stacks and do whatever I want.
And it's just, it's wholesome in a way. It's like he loves her so much in so many different ways, and it is honestly a blessing that, you know, he gets just so turned on by everything she does. But it's more than a level of just a physical turned on, but he's like mentally turned on, which is something that seems fairly rare in this world in general.
Better than I would, yeah, because I can't really ever explain it, because I feel like when I told you this to you a long time ago, when I say like hot and stuff, I don't feel like I need to explain this, but I thought just you said it so perfectly that that's how I feel all the time. When I say hot, it's not necessarily something like, ooh, that's sexy, I want to jump in. It's more like, oh my god, like a mental turn on of just, oh my god, I love this person so much. More than just physical.
A mental turn on.
So that being said,
there is also a physical aspect.
So because it's funny, this scene is fucking hilarious. So they're supposed to be researching, and he got all sentimental, and he's like, well, you know, maybe I can take you between the stacks and see how quiet you can be. I'm like, bitch.
God, that is a common trope, though, of like, let's see how quiet you can be.
The library, bro. Like, that is such a common place for that to occur. Though I've never caught anybody at Barnes & Noble's, I'll let you know.
You've never caught anybody.
No, but they I know, bro. It definitely happens.
You can tell.
Yeah. Feyre's not paying it, so she tries to pick up a book and read it, but she's not fucking paying attention. Because he's upping her as she's trying to read. Oh, fucking me, by the way. To pretend I'm doing something else while he's like, bro.
While your mind is elsewhere. Look, on the outside, you're reading the book. In your mind, you're completely dying.
No, not even looking at what I'm reading. I'd be the one in the movie reading it upside down.
Yes, yeah, you would.
I'd be like, okay, so I'm trying to get to work, and then he like has to turn it around.
It's like, that's upside down, darling.
It's like, I knew that. Such a tease. Dude, he is like, oh, were you not sated from earlier? Like, so he's about to eat her out right here, and then he winnows away.
It's what keeps the relationship strong, I guess.
Well, at first I was like, wait, did something happen to him? And then he's like, well, I can't get any work done.
Yeah, he's giving her incentive to find some to research.
Also, that was hella for himself more than her. He started touching her. It had nothing to do with her.
I'm not gonna get anything done if I start touching her, so I'm gonna go away.
She's like, I'm distracting you. What? He's like, yeah. Like, he's sitting with his hands crossed, and he's like 2 levels down from her. He says, the last thing I'm gonna be thinking about is some dusty old books when you're in all that tight leather.
I mean, valid.
Yeah. So 2 hours work and then we can play. Okay, sir.
Incentive.
Incentive. Also, just they couldn't get anything what they fucking wanted done.
Yeah.
So obviously that happens, and it's very sweet. So when they get out of there, the main thing they find out from their books is that, very important, the wall was never meant to last.
Mm-hmm.
It did me too. It was a temporary solution to the fighting, but they were supposed to eventually find common ground so that the wall would not be up anymore, which... It's such an interesting shift because it's somehow the wall becoming permanent made the world more divided than it was before. I'm not saying it was better before. Obviously, slavery was bad, but everybody knew everybody and there was more conversation between peoples.
Yeah.
And so let's just get back to that, but without the slavery.
Right.
It seems very simple.
I mean, very much like the idea of putting up a wall. That's a very physical representation of, I don't want to talk to you guys. And like, I get that it's to stop fighting, but that just means that the communication stops as well, like you said. And if communication stops, people don't understand. And so they start making up their own versions of what happened. And then that leads to, well, in this case, more fear and then more separation.
Yeah, it's also, when you're talking about the physical divide, it's like, you deserve to be there and I deserve to be here. Mm-hmm. It's like, even for the humans, like, they're just like, you're monsters, you can't be around us. I mean, they even have their own prejudices, obviously. But whilst the high fae obviously think a lot of them still do, where they don't think them as equals.
Right.
And I do want to bring up like geographical politics for a second, because I will tell you what, even in today's society, nobody wants to give up their land. That's all I'm saying.
That's true.
Like, the humans having their own land wouldn't be much. So if the humans didn't have their own land, I feel like this wouldn't have been as much of an issue. They deserve their own lands. I don't think that that's bad. But I think the people who are on Hybern's side, or they don't really necessarily believe in slavery. They're more like, oh, I want my land back.
Right.
Which
that's like
people will go to a lot of lengths for just fucking land.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an important motivator, because if they kill all the humans, then all that land gets freed up. But then in that same context, that land being freed up, they're going to fight to get it. So it just opens up a big can of worms.
One war with the humans, and then that will lead directly into another war within the Fae.
Mm-hmm. So just overall bad.
Yeah.
So like her and Rhys have a kind of an important conversation. Even with Kier and the Illyrians joining let's say in a perfect world, Kier, the Darkbringers, and all of the High Lords, including Baron and Tamlin, decide, yes, we're gonna fight Hybern together. Do they have any shot?
Right.
And Rhys is like, I don't know. He said clear numbers-wise, they don't have an advantage at all, which is terrible to think about, because like, even in that perfect world, they have to give everybody on their side, and they don't even have that yet.
Right.
So they need more advantage. And again, I'm kind of glad that she's talking about it now, like that Rhys is saying that he feels like he needs to sacrifice himself for everyone as a last resort. It's like, no, baby.
I mean, you don't, but there's also more other like last resorts we can get to. There's more other resorts in general that we can get to.
We can find another way.
Yeah.
And so Feyre's master plan that she decides when she's talking to him, okay, what if, so remember the Book of Breathings, right? Amren said that with both of the halves of the book together, that more monsters would come out of the woodwork. Why don't we get them to fight for us?
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, the Bone Carver.
Specifically one that you've talked to before.
They want to bargain with it to fight for them.
The fact that Feyre just says this and Rhys is silent for a moment, I'm like, what?
That's your last resort, letting go somebody that was in the prison?
Well, it's like, Amren was in the prison, and now she's your number 2, so... Well,
it seems like the Bone Carver is more volatile than Amren is.
That's true.
Well, not that, by pure deadliness, I'm just talking about that, not good.
Yeah, very manipulative, for sure.
I would say he's more neutral, though.
Yeah, he's a neutral manipulator.
Is there such thing? Probably.
I'm gonna say there is, and that's the Bone Carver.
Mm-hmm. So, great idea, Feyre. Plan is to go to the prison and talk to the Bone Carver and see what he wants in exchange for helping them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, they decide not to go together because they, unlike last time when Feyre and Rhys went to the prison together, she wasn't High Lady then, and also they think them going together will see it as more desperate, which I see, but it also just gives us an out for Cassian to go with us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Cassian and Feyre going to the prison, and of course Cassian has a fascination with the Carver. I actually wonder how many times he's seen him, or if he's ever seen him.
Right,
I wonder if this is his first time. Yeah. Also, we never figure out who he saw.
No.
Because remember from last time, the Carver changes his appearance on who's looking at him. We don't know what he saw.
Which I hadn't even realized that we never learned that, and now it makes me very curious.
Now I want to know what he saw. My first thought, just because it just happened, I wonder if he saw what was ever in the bottom of the thing. I wonder if he saw that, and that's why he was so shocked, and that he couldn't really say anything during this scene. That was my first thought. So yeah, we don't actually. So even we don't know what he saw. So that's kind of put your ideas in the comments. I would like to see what people thought that Cassian saw. But before we actually get to the prison, we got ahead of ourselves. Yep. Before we actually get to the prison, Feyre goes to look for Amren and Nesta. Which, I'm gonna let you know, Feyre is not at all subtle in mentioning the prison. I slapped my forehead. I was like, dude, Amren could see right through this.
Yeah.
Because she's just like, oh, how's the training going? Good, get away. And then she's like, well, they didn't teach you any manners in those prison. I'm like,
wow, great job.
What are you trying to do? Obviously, she's trying to get information, but girl. Also, the fact that her and Nesta are just sitting in silence with their powers is kind of scary. So, the reason they're not telling Amren, it's not like they're afraid to tell everybody, because obviously they know the inner circle is trustworthy.
Yeah.
They want to wait to tell her until, they actually have something to go on.
Right.
Because if the Carver doesn't want to do it, then why bring it up?
Right.
But if they have some sort of asking price, then they have to ask Amren how she got out because they won't know how to free the Carver.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think freeing the Carver would be something that Amren would be too pleased about.
No.
I don't know if they don't have, I mean, obviously none of the prison inmates had a relationship, but...
But also, there's a reason that the Bone Carver was in there, and also the reason that he was way deep down under the prison.
Yes. And also, Amren's very dismissive. She's also being kind of bitchy right now.
Because she's dealing with Nesta.
That's true. Also, the fact that Cassian was, like, hovering while Nesta was training.
He's just checking up on her and making sure she's not doing anything stupid.
Well, because remember, Amren is taking Nesta to the Court of Nightmares when they go. So they're trying to prepare her for it.
Right, to be able to sense things.
I will say that I completely understand why Moore doesn't want to work with Kier, but I kind of agree with Rhysand that he said last time that, girl, it's not like he wants to, but he has to.
Right, because he needs to get as much support as he can. He needs as much, at least physical power as he can.
And it's like, she's also blinded by that too. It's not like he's doing this just to spite her. If anything, I kind of got mad at Moore about this. It's like, why does she, obviously getting upset with working with them, sure, but getting mad at Rhys is not the answer. Also, I love this at the end, because this chapter is kind of short, but it has been a while since Feyre had a full-blown nightmare, and one that we also heard.
Right, and that she had to be woken up from.
So she's back under the mountain, Nesta is hung up like Claire, Elaine is rotating on the spit, and girl, this one triggered me hella. Rhysand going into Amarantha's bedroom with his wings out.
His wings that he protected for 50 years from that.
I was like, hell no.
No, it's just a nightmare. Wake up.
It's like, baby. Also, it's so sweet. Is that like when Rhysand gets her out of the nightmare, rubs her back, because she thought she was going to retch all over the ground.
Yeah.
He just like rubs her back and tries to wake her up. Breathe. Never again. Never again. That's their slogan.
But they're actually doing things to make sure it's never again.
Yes. I wanted to bring this up because I think it's so important. Again, like the practicality nature of a love of fantasy. In so many novels, when some woman or the main protagonist girl has trauma, it is so overlooked in a way that, when they're finally mated or together or whatever, it stops. All over. It stops abruptly. Oh yes, everything's okay. Now we're okay. And no.
No.
I like the realism of not being quote unquote free of these nightmares. They always can. Yeah, and those things get triggered by anxiety, can get triggered by anything.
Sometimes even the smallest random things can trigger it unexpectedly.
Even if they're in the most peaceful of times, they all still went through a lot, and that's going to be something that's always there. So I love how she doesn't shy away from it. SJM, from writing it, I mean. And it makes me appreciate the writing that much more. He's so sweet with her the next morning, too. He's, like, not really talking, but he's being very, very gentle and sweet with her, waiting for her to tell him. If he wants. If she doesn't want to tell him, but she wants to tell somebody else, he's also fine with that as well.
Yeah. I love the respect.
Yeah. And knowing that maybe I don't want to tell you right now. Not because I don't want to tell you, but...
Or sometimes you can't tell him right now.
Yeah. I don't have words. It's just so sweet. But then she does. She verbalizes everything to him. She tells him what she saw, how she felt about it, what triggered it. And honestly, she instantly feels a weight lifted off her shoulders.
Right. Because that was not something she could ever do with Tam.
Oh, yeah, talk about things? Just talk about anything?
To have feelings like a woman?
Well, also just Tamlin doesn't do feelings, though.
Exactly.
He doesn't do his own feelings, so he can't hear about anybody else's.
Right. And if she tried to go to anyone else, it's like, oh, just a woman having feelings.
Well, or it's also like, well, why did you go to him? Maybe because I can't go to you.
Right. Let's turn it more toxic.
So he does, like, he kind of kisses her a lot, but they're like, but he, like, keeps kissing her, and then Cassian kind of, like, about mates, and Rhys snarls at him. He's like, not today.
Not today. And Cassian's like, okay, sorry. I don't know what I missed, but okay.
Well, because on a normal day, that'd be fine to talk shit about, but not today.
Yeah, Cass doesn't know, but it's fine.
And I also like how it's not like I'm sorry. I'm like, it's just, oh shit, okay.
Okay. Not today. Got it.
Got it. Perfectly clear.
Yep, for Reese to snarl at him?
So again, they can't winnow directly into the prison because we've only been here once, so I'm just reminding the audience. The prison so again, we haven't been here since they've mated.
Mm-hmm.
Prison has the ancient spells that tie to it that make using magic in there impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it dampens the mating bond, kind of similar to how what happened in Hyde, kind of cuts it off.
Yeah.
And so it's hey, you guys are going to be in there alone, take care of each other.
Cassian take care of her.
Yeah, fucking, yeah.
Well, Cassian's getting his wish to protect her as High Lady now, as well.
I know.
But also, the last time they were at the prison, Feyre was at the prison, she was so winded climbing up that mountain.
I know, and now she isn't.
The training paid off.
It's so good. I do love how Cassian's okay, come on, you can leave now. I got her.
It's I got her, fam, it's fine. I'll be careful.
He called her he called him a mother hen.
He is, though. Reese is very much a mother hen.
Yes. So, Cassian reminds Feyre, because again, a big kind of eye roll moment for Feyre. I think it's also good that she's also a lot ignorant of, I think this is also a thing that I like about the right, because even though Feyre knows more about this society still, there's still some things that are new that she's not going to get right off the bat.
Right.
Remember, can't talk about who was here, okay? They can hear us. But she just full blown so who did you put in here? Shh. Fuck up, we're not supposed to talk about it. I love how she can still be a little bit ignorant on sometimes about the rules, which is totally fair. She's getting thrown a bunch of shit. I didn't, somebody reading this for the first time probably didn't remember that either.
Right. Because it did happen fairly early on in Mist and Fury.
Mm-hmm. So Cassian brings up a pretty important note, though, that, okay, great, if the Carver decides there's a bargaining tool, whatever, but how are you going to control him? Because he just can't be running rampant on the battlefield, because then he said we'll be battling on all different fronts, and that will not be advantageous to us.
Right.
Which I feel, if you make the bargain, because if this is going to be a bargain that's what we think of as a bargain, she's just got to make it specific.
Right.
I feel at this point she should know how to fucking do a bargain by now, because she's gotten screwed over
since she was a human.
Yeah, she knows them by now about how to do them. She should be able to do this.
Hell, her very first bargain was when Tamlin broke down the door of their cottage. So she knows how to bargain with Ares. She's learned.
True. Very much learned since then. Okay, important lore alert moment. Big monologue.
Yeah.
So this is hella important for anybody who loves the lore aspects of this. And also, this is us because we're also, I don't want to say, I think we also overanalyze. If you're just watching this for entertainment, don't worry about us. But we also like to predict shit, so this is why it's important for us. Mm-hmm. So, Cassian gives us the lowdown about before Prythian, before the High Lords. We've brought this up a couple times. There used to be life on the land where the prison was. Mm-hmm. But they called them the old gods. And they were here before the Mother, before the Cauldron, and even before the High Fae. That's ancient.
Yeah. Considering the Cauldron, the Mother plus the Cauldron is what created life on Prythian. At least that's what we've been told. The fact that there already was life, these old gods, that's terrifying, honestly.
And badass, by the way.
Yeah, can't forget that, yeah.
They are assuming that the Carver is an old god, which makes sense, because also we're starting to think that this guy can see, because he hears stuff that a normal person would not. He hears stuff in the prison. Mm-hmm. And of course we get that throughout this, but somebody all-powerful has to be that, because that couldn't be the case otherwise.
Yeah.
How do you think he ended up in the prison? Because Cassian says that nobody knows how he ended up.
When we first read through this, I don't think I had an answer for you. It was just a very much of I have absolutely no idea. I have no clue. But since then, I've kind of just thought of this, it's more of a funny option, but of what if the Carver was literally just sleeping underground? What if he was hibernating and prison was built on top of him?
Well, he is at the bottom of it, so.
Exactly. He was in the bottom, his door is all decorated with bone. I'm sure that was his home. That was his house, his own room. And then the prison was just built on top, and he's interesting. This is a lot of gossip I can hear.
He's the surreal in that way.
Right.
Well, I will say, especially from what we get from this whole section with him, it was either that, I think two things. He either walked himself into the prison, or he let himself get captured by somebody.
Which, who would be the one to capture him is also another question if that were the case.
No clue. Some ancient High Lord or something? I don't know, but maybe ancienter than that? Ancienter?
Ancienter?
More ancient than that.
Here you go.
So, of course, they want to ask Amryn specifically how she got out, because none of them know. That's something we know she got out. We know that she put her essence into a body, but we don't really know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's very broad and also doesn't give us much to go off of.
Right.
Was it a spell? Did she just do it? Is she possessing somebody? I don't know.
Did she have to, like, give something of herself up to do it? Like,
Yeah.
a kind of bargain they're trying to do with the Carver? Who knows?
Mm-hmm. So I also love how they're holding hands as they're walking through again, because I think before with Feyre and Rhys, like, people were thinking, oh, they're holding, because they're together. No, everybody who goes in there holds hands with everybody.
Yeah, very
It's
much
more
so,
like,
'cause you don't want to get lost. You can't risk anything. You can't risk getting separated.
Yeah, because I feel like, dude, I'd be like clenching his hand, bro.
Yeah.
I'd be so nervous.
Yeah.
And so
It
they
is
make
very
their way
sweet,
down.
though.
Yeah, it is. It's very sweet. So Feyre, it's interesting now because she's High Lady. She has the access to opening the cage doors.
Mm-hmm. Which is why another reason they didn't need Rhys this time.
Yeah, because I think Rhys said it in the first book. The first real book. No. I would never say that. In Akamath, I think it was his bloodline or his blood ties were
his blood
the reason
type,
he
I
could.
think it was.
And because technically they're married now in matrimony, there's a level of, well, I am your, and because she's High Lady, I think that also makes it that way.
Yeah.
Because didn't they have to, it almost, because we didn't really, okay, I'm getting excited. We didn't see the scene where they got married, but like, I feel like they had to swap blood or something.
Probably. Very much the blood oath.
Mm-hmm. Kind of.
But, like, I mean,
That's
a thing that just recently, sorry, a little digression here. Just recently, I watched the relatively new movie, Damsel, that has Millie Bobby Brown.
Oh, yeah.
And that whole thing was, their uniting in ceremony was they had to cut their palms and basically shake on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what then caused her the woman to be with royal blood, because their blood was joined. So I basically picture something like that.
Dude, I was thinking like the same thing.
Yeah. I was thinking like a version of that, like when I first read it, but definitely now that I've seen Damsel, like that's a whole physical thing that I can use.
Mm-hmm. So when Feyre walks in, the Bone Carver is still a young boy, which is interesting because I feel like when Rhys said it before, it almost seemed like it changed every time.
Mm-hmm.
The Bone Carver is still looking like a young boy.
Maybe to me, I was thinking like it's the same young boy, except maybe he's a few months older or something.
But the Bone Carver still wants her to see it than something completely different. So my hypothesis was last season, I thought it was young Rhysand.
Mm-hmm.
Feyre now is realizing, dude, I didn't do this shock. I was like, wait, what? So she's looking at the boy now. She sees Rhysand's eyes in his face, but her mouth,
her father's
and her features, So it's her son. It's their son in the future.
Mm-hmm. Hers and Rhys's son. And so the fact that she was seeing that before she even knew that they were mates.
Oh, dude, the Carver is wild, bro.
The Carver, I can totally imagine the Carver, the cereal, just sitting down for tea. It's like, hey, when do you think they're going to realize it?
I think there's actually fan art of that I could send you.
Or at least like comics of it.
It's like, dude, that shocked me because I didn't even think about, but the thing is she didn't describe it like that previously, so we wouldn't have known it like that because I definitely thought it was Rhysand.
Because I went back and read it and it was like ice blue eyes rather than violet, which I read it as violet originally, but it's, the dark black hair that's Rhys's and the ice blue eyes, and now she's seeing that it's like her father's face, father's smile and stuff. It's all there. I just didn't see it before, so it's like,
also it wasn't described before like that either.
Yeah, true.
I give this a pass for not knowing it.
Yeah, although it does make sense because the fan arts of the Bone Carver, specifically Feyre's version, obviously, very, very icy blue eyes, which are Feyre's eyes, clearly. So it's like, I don't know why I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So cool, though. So,
dude, the Bone Carver is he's giving us a surreal moment of us being like, what the fuck did you just say? Throughout this entire section.
Yeah.
So, because again, let's remind everybody, to talk to the Carver, you have to bring him a bone. Dude, I was like, wait, what? What do they have to give him? It's the bone, it's the only bone left from her shattering the adder on the steps of Alaris.
Of course, Rhys would just pick that up.
Girl, go. Just knowing they'd need it somehow. So, okay, remember in the sequence of events from Akamath, they went to the Carver, then they went to the Weaver, and then they had everything.
Yeah.
This makes so much sense of why this wasn't brought up before. Is that if they saw the Weaver first, then the Carver, I feel like he would have said something.
Yeah.
Girl, he says, I smell my sister on you.
Okay, that's terrifying. The Weaver's terrifying as it is.
What the fuck? The fucking Weaver of the Wood is the brother. They're twins, by the way, which we know about twins.
Makes me think, though, that if the Bone Carver wasn't, like, appearing as all these different people, like, would he look like the Weaver then? Are they identical twins or fraternal?
I don't know. I feel like, well, now that we know what kind of, like, gods, I don't even think that's...
That's true. It probably doesn't
like,
matter.
what they would look like.
But then that also does make me think, though, because, you know, other than, of course, the Weaver's face, you know, she is a beautiful creature. So, like, I'm totally imagining the Bone Carver is actually a fairly beautiful creature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because even death gods are pretty stunning. At least.
Well, I think that's the point. I think they're supposed to be that stunning that they're deadly.
Yeah.
They, like, lure people in.
But still, like, I was not expecting him to be like, oh yeah, like, the Weaver's my sister, my twin sister.
Did not expect that at all. That just adds a whole other element to this that I didn't even notice.
And also just the fact that it's just like, let's go to the brother and then the sister.
They didn't even know that. They're like, I
Right.
love and hate how he calls Cassian so many things. He calls him Warrior Heart, calls him Lord of Bloodshed, and he calls him the Prince of Bastards.
That's like both a compliment and backhand. Actually, it's just a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, but it's also, that just makes me think more about Cassian, though. Yeah, because they always talk about how Cassian and Azrael they are not normal.
Yeah.
They're not normal Illyrian. Also, I love, I mean, I hate this, but I love it. So after really talking about, the Carver tells us in this really big, creepy monologue that the sea and the world trembled of Nesta. That when she emerged from the cauldron, the sea told the Carver her name and said that she took something from it. We know that. Like, we know she took something from it, but can we fucking figure out what it was? I really want to know.
I mean, but it is nice to have that confirmation of like, okay, yeah, she did take something. Just thanks for affirming that for us. Also, Cassian getting all defensive because the Carver mentions Nesta.
Oh, also, like, he says her name, like, really creepily. It's like, Nesta. Like, it's like, ew.
I mean, I'm with Cassian there. I'll get protective of her if, like, some creepy ancient being says her name like that.
Yeah, it's like, I love how he describes her, though. He says, Nesta is at the same time new because of her being high fae now, but she's also at the same time ancient. Like, the power is ancient.
Because it's what she got cauldron, yeah.
It's like a dangerous combination, and she calls to Cassian. The Carver just calls him out right there. He's just, the characters are getting called out in this episode. The Carver's like, so she calls to you, doesn't... I think that's where he calls him the Prince of Bastards. Oh yeah, what did you wake that day in Highburn, Prince of Bastards? Also, the Carver says Nesta is a queen, so I think we should all listen to him.
Yeah.
Nesta is a queen. Now, I'm calling it.
Like, we don't know how exactly, because there are many different types of queens, but she is a queen. There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm. Her power makes her a queen somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was a queen before, even.
Exactly. I mean, she was already, as Feyre constantly said, a queen without her throne. Or a queen holding court.
And I love how he describes, because again, this gets brought up later in like chapter 24, but he says, what did she do drowning in the ageless dark? What did she take? The ageless dark. I like that, because we don't really know what they saw. Because like, obviously when they got put in the cauldron, there's a level of, wait, they see something? Was it just pure black? It is so open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, so he just monologued everything. Okay, that wasn't really what we were looking for, but thanks for the information.
They didn't have to ask any questions or answer any questions.
I think just the Carver likes Feyre.
Yeah, finds her interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, now he has two other interesting characters, so he's like, dude, I'm in bliss.
All related to Feyre.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's thinking like, if he's nice to Feyre and does what she says, like, then he'll get a chance to meet Nesta. Yeah. But then Nesta's just gonna be as bitchy to him as she would to anybody. Uh-huh.
And everyone's like, you know who this is, right? She's like, I don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit. And the Carver's like, ooh, interesting. Come to play, Nesta Archeron.
So Feyre steers the conversation subtly away from the Carver's attention on Nesta to the talk of returning home. Mm-hmm. She's like, you know, our friend has a book that can get you to where you want to go. 100%, she totally overestimates the Carver's wishes here, and they blindside her. The Carver blindsides Feyre with this information. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to return home at all. He says that by now their home is nothing but ash. Mm-hmm. He does not have any desire to return home. He wants to be in this cell. And then, lore alert, he explains why. Mm-hmm. He's like, the cell is where I wish to be, Cursebreaker. Do you let me think I let them trap me without good reason? Which makes me suggest that, like, my theory about him letting himself get trapped is what happened there.
And who's the they that trapped him?
I don't know. I really don't know. someone in the Night Court ages eons ago?
Maybe.
I didn't notice this, but when he's monologuing this, he makes 3 interlapping circles on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even fucking notice that when I first read it.
I think I noticed it, but like I didn't think anything of it.
Like I'm thinking, you know, a dead center and then one circle. It's kind of like a Venn diagram would be, but with 3.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's like somehow the 3 siblings they're connected somehow to this one person, but they don't talk about it.
Yeah,
so here. Well, I actually think it's not the mother, and I'll let you know why. You're not wrong, because we don't know. We don't fucking know anything about this, by the way. This is just lore again. So the Carver and the Weaver are twin, and her name is Striga. So we actually get her her name, and they have an older brother who, it's said, we say it 2 different ways, so apologies if we trigger anybody by the pronunciation, but we say Kosechi, but it's actually Kosche.
No, Kosechi just seems more death god-y.
Yeah. Somehow.
Yeah, somehow. Kosechi. Like, you usually think of, I guess for me, I think of, like, gods, like, having longer names. So,
yeah.
Kosechi, 3 syllables versus Kosche.
So, that's how it's actually pronounced, but, so, apologies. We say it weirdly.
I'm stuck in my ways. I'm gonna keep saying Kosechi, whether I mean to or not.
I might do it interchangeably, just because I've listened to the audio so much.
Right.
So, he's their older brother, which, that doesn't give us hope.
So, there's 3 death gods, apparently.
Yes. Before the land was carved up by the High Lord, an ancient Fey warrior bound Striga and Kosechi to their respective places. Obviously, Striga is stuck in the middle, while Kosechi is on the continent. Liesl's right when looking back at the map. There is a big-ass lake on the continent, and it's just kind of stuck in the middle. Very magic-like, so obviously that's where Kosechi is. And he's bound to the lake, which I love how the Carver says he's just bound to his little lake on the continent. That thing is massive. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, it's very much like, you know, the Weaver, Striga, she has the entire middle, you know. It's purposefully said that she, like, you know, the most powerful runs the middle, and that's the Weaver. So it's like, so she's in control of that giant area of the middle. Kosche, is in charge of that giant lake. Like, it could be a small inland sea with how big it is, honestly.
Right.
Like, that, if you, like, kind of look at the map, that is, like, the size of one of the courts, at least.
Probably the size of the Night Court, I would gather.
Yeah, which is one of the bigger courts. So it's like, okay, that is not a small lake.
No.
Don't say that.
But so the Carver goes on to say that there was a Fey warrior that bound his siblings to their respective areas, which this person has to be powerful as fuck. And she's a woman. This Fey ancient warrior that did all this good stuff was a woman.
I did not clock that, actually.
Yep.
Oh, but I do remember saying that it's like, oh, then that could be the ancestor.
Yeah, I think you were saying that beforehand, that you thought that was because he goes on to say that her bloodline still runs through some humans, but he doesn't say who.
So, our friends much?
So he does tell them, yep, they're death gods. They're full-on death gods. That's different than just old gods.
Yeah.
That is a hyper-specific one.
Which kind of, it means that, you know, since the old gods were on the area that the prison is now, that suggests that they were not on the prison area.
Oh, they were running about. That's why he says that the Fey warrior couldn't kill them, but he could contain them.
Yeah, probably.
She could contain them.
Right. That's probably, honestly, where she caught up them. And it was just like, well, I can't defeat this. I'm just going to lock them right here where they are.
Or she, lured them to his place that wouldn't be in the courts, or, yeah.
Maybe this person was the one who split the courts up originally. So
they bring up this ancient war, so there's no name. I'm assuming she has a name, but we don't know it, which gives me a huge ass red flag. Because I'm like, me knowing me, I'm like, do we know this person's name? And it's just being hidden from us into a specific time?
Right.
I don't know. So, also, what's important to note is that, dude, I didn't even pick this up on my first reread, but when I picked up on my second, that's why I highlighted it. The Carver says, I wish she was still alive when I was trying. She would have been my salvation. I don't really know what that means. I don't know if that has some sort of romantic context to it. Not in like he fell for her way, but kind of an admiration. Probably the closest thing the Carver could get to being
that. But or I was thinking along the lines of maybe they were friends, because he does specifically say that this warrior locked locked his siblings up. And the fact, though, actually, now I'm putting it together, at least I think I am, he said that he let them capture him. So, like, what if he understood it, what this warrior was doing, and let her capture him? I wish she was still around because we were friends or something.
I found where it says it, which is kind of a big kind of question mark, so we don't know. A clever that Fae warrior. Her bloodline is long gone now, though its trace still remains through some human line. One human line. No one remembers her name, but I do. She would have been my salvation, but I had not made the choice long before she walked this earth.
So that
makes me think that this, like, Striga and Kosechi were like on the world before he was.
Yeah.
So that's a big question mark.
That's true. I didn't catch that before.
Dude, we don't have a clue, is all I'm saying to this.
Maybe he admired her for being able to capture his siblings.
Maybe that. Maybe she was also just powerful as fuck, and he's like, maybe she had the power that Nesta has somehow, and that's why admiring of Nesta.
I mean, honestly, though, the fact that he's like, her bloodline runs through one human line.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
Sticking with my theory. I might be a broken record at this point, but like, his fascination with Feyre, Nesta, and probably, even though he doesn't really say it, Elaine, just the whole Archeron family, and now the fact that they've been turned Fae, honestly, things like just keep adding up for me.
No, we all have that one theory that we will stick by till our deaths. I understand.
Until it gets proved or disproven, I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, good for you. So, long lore story short, he has no desire to get out of there. He is hiding as hell from his siblings. Because, yeah, the Fae are immortal. They're, like, long-lived. Like, he says that they're long-lived, but compared to the truly immortal nature of a death god, the High Fae die at some point. They're just more long-lived than the other ones. They age, but they age slowly.
Yeah. I will say, like, the fact that he's scared of his siblings makes me think he was the younger twin.
Oh, yeah. 100% agree. Also, when he talks about the Weaver, it's so funny because she ate souls. Like, it's a difference between weaving, like, the hair of people and shit, but, like, she ate souls so that she could remain young looking forever. Also, I love how Feyre kind of, because, so, that, their plan just went out of the fucking toilet. He does not want to get out of there at all. There is no incentive for him to go. And she's like, they try to kind of scare him. They're like, well, if Hybern, wins the war, they're going to unleash the prison. He's like, no, they're not. He's like,
they tried to scare a death god, and he's also like, yeah, Hybern may be evil, but they're not stupid.
Yeah, they're not going to unleash us upon them. They're going to keep them safe, and honestly, the prison's the only safe place if Hybern takes over.
That's true.
But the Carver does give them a chance. The eddies of the cauldron stir in strange ways. So, just as about that there as a... I tried to sound fantasy. So, the Weaver had a collection of mirrors in her black castle. Immediately thought the evil queen from Snow White. I'm like, okay, she was talking to the mirror.
Talking to, like, the mirror, and then wanting to stay young.
And she could look old if she wanted to. So, it's called, this is so cool. It's called the Ouroboros. Like, in the Fae language, that's how, like, some people just, Ouroboros. That's the American pronunciation, but it's the Ouroboros.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think with my accent, I, like, flip it a little bit. I'm like, Ouroboros. Like, I just say, like, I close it because the mouth to it. Not the fantastical way of saying it, but I'm just like, oh yeah, it's just the Ouroboros.
Well, you know how when when like British people will like do an American accent, and they like that's how I felt saying the Ouroboros, the Ouroboros. Like that's the American pronunciation of it.
Ouroboros. I tend to like to flip the R's.
Yeah, so I like rolling the R, so that's why I say it like that. But you will catch me saying the Ouroboros, just
Ouroboros.
So anyway, the mirror. ADHD brains today. So the mirror is old. The mirror was old when they were young. When the old gods were. That's creepy. It is in the Hewn City, so good thing that they're going there. It is his asking price to use him in battle. Feyre has to go retrieve the mirror. Which makes it's interesting because, like, since we don't really know much about it, he makes it sound like it's so easy that makes me think that somehow it's either hard to get to or Kyr's not going to let them do it. I don't know, because it's in Kyr's household.
Another thing I was thinking was that it was like kind of like one of those trick things of, oh yeah, just go do this, da 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 da. It's like super simple, and then it's actually like something that is like super duper dangerous. I mean, obviously, if the Weaver had it, dangerous. Something about, like, the looking in it, and then goes to explain it, and I'm like, huh.
I mean, they kind of got what they wanted. They have something to go off of to get the Carver to get out of there. But, ooh, I really like their little talk at the end of the chapter, because it's like calls to like. The reason Cassian wanted to go, not only because I feel like whenever we hear like calls to like, it's just like, oh my god, yes, we know.
We know.
But it's also canon now. We have to go with it. Cassian wanted to go because he wanted to see what Carver had to say about Nesta, which obviously he had loads to say.
Yes.
No one knows what Nesta is, and everybody's scared of her, but I love this, what he says. I have to say it verbatim.
Yes, please do.
I'm a warrior. I've walked beside death my entire life. I would be more afraid for her to have the power, but not afraid of nothing about Nesta could frighten me. Aww. Also, can I just, okay, this is me, grammar bitch. I love how they capitalize death whenever they talk to her, like whenever they talk about her. Like, or sorry, when Cassian, it's like he's personifying death.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you punctuate something like that, you're obviously talking about somebody.
Yeah.
So it's like he personifies death as something he has been walking beside his whole life, so why would Nesta be any different?
Right, which is sweet, but also, like, the fact that he wants to learn about her power so he can help her harness it rather than be scared of her, like, that's always a soft spot for me.
Dude, you're right. I felt this in my fucking soul. I told this to you, and I'll tell this to the audience. Like, I don't know with me, but some people are, like, hella afraid of me. Or they don't understand to a certain point where there's, why should I bother? Because she just scares the fuck out of me. Which is so funny, because I don't think I'm a very frightening individual.
It's ridiculous. You're sweet, not scared.
Which is so funny, because you've seen it firsthand.
I have, and it's so stupid.
Liesl has seen it firsthand where someone will be just terrified of me. And I don't know if it's just like my romantic ass, but the fact that he says nothing about her would frighten him, dude, almost made me tear up. Because I was like, that's what I'm looking for. Also, not just scared of me, but also not to have somebody be intimidated by me. And you'll find your Azrael / JK. They're the same person.
They are.
I bet Azrael can dance really well. That's just a side thought.
I mean, he is a shadow singer, so...
He probably can sing.
He's probably a shadow dancer, too.
Azrael singing 7. Okay, Liesl gonna be gone for the rest of this episode.
The clean version, of course.
No.
Come on, I'm trying to keep some kind of my sanity right here.
I know. I'm not helping. I don't want to help.
No, you don't.
No, I don't want to help at all. So then chapter 54, this is the last chapter. This all happens before their meeting with Kier, by the way. So, oh my god, so much happens in this chapter. It's so good. Cassian and Feyre come back from the Carver. Cassian and Azrael pull sticks about who's gonna stay back in Valaris to protect the city. And Azrael won, and Cassian is fucking pissed about it.
Yeah, he probably wants to see how Kier is healed.
Yeah, I also think he wanted to go because Nesta's going.
That's true.
And he wanted to take care of her.
Right.
So, okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but... So, we're going up to see the sisters again because she wants to check on them before tonight. Do we care about Elaine's wedding that was supposed to happen? Do you care?
I don't care.
I don't want to be a bitch, but do we actually...
It's not gonna happen, girl. She should just go over it. And I know that's sensitive. It's a lot, logistically, it's not gonna happen.
Well, also, to be fair, with my 10th time reading this, I'm like, ugh, yes, your wedding. So that's how I feel. I think the first time I read this, I had sympathy, but is she just gonna be this one-note wonder where it's just gonna be, that's all she's gonna talk about?
Right. Or be sad about, anyway.
Or Amryn was right, dude. I mean, she was being hella insensitive, but Amryn was totally right. She's like, how she keeps reminding all of us.
Yeah, it's like, come on. Elaine just needs to, like, get some fresh air, get out of the house, move on from the human world, even though I know that's hard. Even Feyre hasn't completely moved on.
Honestly, it's very interesting. I mean, I understand why they're keeping them up in the House of Wind. I think it was a good first idea. But I think by keeping them up in the house, they also were, I don't know, they were walling them off from learning about Fae culture. Because, like, up there, they're still on the outside looking down at...
That's true.
Versus actually being around people and getting more acclimated.
I suppose, yeah, that's true.
I understand why they did it, but I'm glad they moved them later. But anyway, as we get into this, I just wanted to say that because I was like, okay, now reading this for the 10th time, I don't give a shit about her wedding, but I also know that's hella insensitive.
Yeah.
So, but Elaine is finally out of her room when Feyre walks into the library.
That's progress.
She's sitting by the window. She's still not talking, or she doesn't like engage unless she's directly engaged upon. And when Feyre does talk to her, Elaine does start talking, but she's saying some like sounding crazy ass shit. So at first it makes sense because she's saying, oh, I can hear your your heartbeats and I can see very far. It's like, yeah, they were all in the same position at one point getting used to their new bodies. Because again, the practical nature of this, like, yes, the hearing has enhanced, the sight has enhanced, the smell has enhanced. So, and obviously Feyre didn't really help her with that, but also it didn't seem like she was inclined for their help. Like, it didn't seem like they wanted her help.
Right.
Either of them. I just want to clarify, when Elaine looks up to Feyre, she, even in her down state, Feyre says this about Elaine. She is so beautiful that would bring kings to their knees. But that one kind of red flagged me. I was like, they always talk about how beautiful Elaine is. I mean, they talk about how striking Nesta is, but never beautiful.
Right.
Again, that goes back to how I thought they all had each a moniker of a different sort, but they're all good looking. But it seems like Elaine is the most ladylike, queenly looking of them.
Right.
But she's sounding batshit crazy now, I'll just let you. She says in her dreams that she hears the sea and a bird made of fire.
That was like some kind of like prediction kind of thing. Or either a prediction or a reference. Like a fiery bird stood for something like the war is coming and fire is gonna burn stuff or something. Like coming from across the sea, like High Bird is coming to wreck fire and havoc and everything.
Because we haven't really seen, if I'm thinking about this, we have never seen like a bird insignia or any sort of fire. I mean, the only fire stuff we've heard about is through Autumn, but we haven't really, because that just makes me think phoenix. A bird made of fire is a phoenix. Right. From my fantasy knowledge. Right. So I'm like, why the fuck is she hearing, they think she's crazy. I mean, obviously we both know better. So we were like, I don't think she's crazy, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what she's seeing. I don't know, like you said, if she's seeing a premonition, if she's seeing some past shit, or if it's more of a warning. I don't know. So I had no clue, but I was like, no, she's not just crazy.
Yeah. But I think the thing of, I don't know, I guess another thought that I had in a couple of like later reads was how Rhys was able to see Feyre through the wall painting. Like if somehow Elaine had some other connection that wasn't Lucian and saw like visions of that, especially since she said that she saw it in her dreams, which is what happened to Rhys.
Yeah, that's probably the only connection I could see so far that we know about.
But you're right, it's like completely new, completely random.
Because now...
one last thing I'll say about that is, what if it was something she saw in the cauldron? And so it's like a memory that's plaguing.
And that just adds another element of why the hell was the cauldron showing her that? Is it good for them or bad for them?
Right. It's like something that should probably be on their radar, is my guess.
Yeah. Is it a warning or is it a cry for help? Or it's like this, whatever. So Feyre takes Nesta to the side and she's like, she puts up a shield so they can't hear. But also, which also means that Nesta can't tell that Lucian approaches when he eventually does. But, Feyre asks if Nesta brought Elaine out, but Nesta confirms that she didn't move her and Elaine did that herself. And she's been talking in those half riddles all day, which makes me think that she's now starting to have these things happen to her, so that's why she's trying to verbalize them.
Right. She was probably like just very blank before and maybe thinking about her lack of wedding.
Is it very interesting that this all of a sudden started happening after their visit with the card?
Right.
I don't believe in coincidences.
There's no such thing as a coincidence.
Not in these worlds. So finally Nesta fucking confirms that she has powers, because like this whole time she's like, nope, I don't. It's like, no, you do, bitch.
Yeah.
But she never says what they are. It seems like Nesta knows what her power is, but then Nesta's like, do you think Elaine has the same powers as me? It almost seems like she's worried.
Right. As if like she's scared of what she feels in her own veins, and she's like, better not be in Elaine too.
I don't want Elaine to have powers. Not because that, I want to be the one that has. No, she's almost scared for her. She doesn't want her to have this burden it seems like Nesta has on her powers.
Having the powers and, having the fear of like something might happen with the powers, or even the idea of sweet, soft Elaine might have to train to learn about these powers.
I love how you eye rolled.
Yeah.
She needs to get her ass up in the ring too.
Why
do they not push her to train? They're coddling her.
They are.
Dude, this Feyre was in the fucking same position and they pushed her to train. They're literally babying her, and that's going to be to her detriment.
Yeah.
We do have a rare moment of camaraderie between Nesta and Feyre, which I appreciate when it happens. And it always happens when they're alone.
Yeah. Because there's no one else to judge Nesta, or for her to be scared about them judging her.
Yeah. So she does push to ask, like, why don't you want to train? And she's like, first thing she says, why does it have to be with Cassian? Why can't I train with Azrael? Okay.
Like, would you train with Azrael, though?
Is Cassian the only problem? And I think, honestly, the crux of it is yes. I think she is scared, because that means spending more time with him, and I'm going to assume that that means also falling for him.
Probably.
She doesn't want to fall for him and care about him.
Yeah, because she already cares so much.
Yeah, because Feyre said that in the first book, bro. She's like, Nesta feels everything, and that's why she's so closed off.
Yeah.
To most people. But she kind of says, she's like, well, she, covers that up, and she's like, I'm not a warrior, nor I desire to be. And bitch, I very much doubt that. Because even Feyre brings it up. She says, okay, you said you wanted our enemies dead. How are you going to do that if you don't know how to?
Right.
She's like, well, people can do it for me. I'm like, I don't think you're that prissy.
It's like, that's also not what you wanted. You promised that you would kill the king.
Yeah, you were
that you need to train.
It's like, you are the one that pointed at him, bitch. So that kind of ceases to talk when they hear Lucian's footsteps, or Feyre does. Who won the bet? Now I really want to know who won the bet about how long it would take for Lucian to see her.
Another thing we have to wait on.
Sarah, who won the bet? She's like, that's what you want to know? Yes, right, I want to know who won the bet.
It's like, okay, who won the bet about Lucian visiting Elaine? And then what did Cassian see at the Bone Carver? Shows
those are things I feel. Yeah, it's just like, I don't want to know, because you'll tell me what I need to know eventually. This is probably stuff I'm never going to actually need to know.
Right. We just want to know, like, the extra little lore stuff and, like, just the little Easter eggs. Like, we're going to learn about the story as you write it. We're not going to ask for spoilers on that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to. So this is our first time with Lucian seeing Elaine. Also, Feyre's like, I want to see how this unfolds, because nothing has helped Elaine too. Maybe their mating bond, whether or not they want it or not, maybe seeing Lucian could help her.
Right. Of course,
this is very much
but she lets it happen.
Right. This is very much like a 50-50 shot at if this is going to go well or not.
Like, it could make things better, or it could make things way worse.
Right. So Feyre goes into Lucian's mind as this is happening. So she wants to see the scene play out through his eyes and his thoughts.
Yeah.
Also, I fucking love this monologue so much. First thing he's like, claim, mate.
Beautiful.
Also, that's so Lucian, though.
It is.
Oh, what a man. Also, because she's in his thoughts, he calls Nesta the Viper.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So when he's looking at her from behind, right? But he starts describing, because we haven't really got much about Jasminda, and so we get a little bit more about it here, is that Jasminda and Elaine were very different people. Yeah. Jasminda was fire and free and, kind of, beat to her own drum, while as Elaine is very much a follower. I don't want to say follower, but
she's kind of
at least. Yeah, she's not very fiery. She's kind of just sweet and flowery. That's probably the only thing I know that's kind of on the nose, but
she's flowery and she doesn't have any fire in her yet.
Girl, I fucking hate you. God, I hate Lucian's brothers, but at the same time, that was such a good line. Yeah, the fire hasn't been in her just yet. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Or even, I hate that the fact that quote came from the twins, the hybrid twins.
Yeah, the guy, the woman who fucked her brother is like, yeah, those fiery men. It's like, I don't think hearing dating advice from you is the right path there.
Like, yeah, I would go for Baron's fire too.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if she fucked both him and Eris.
Probably.
She father and son. That's why Eris is scarred.
Right.
No, but so we also so when I first read this I didn't really think about it, but we also have to have some sympathy for Lucian here. Like, Elaine was thrown at him too. It wasn't just more was thrown at Elaine in a moment, but she was also thrown at him. Girl, I laughed so hard in this chapter for no fucking reason. I love how he says he talks about Nesta. He's like, Cauldron helped the male who ends up shackled to her. I'm thinking to myself, Cassian.
Cassian seems like he could use a good fight.
But we also thought the same thing. We were just like, yeah, help whoever is with her. It's like, oh shit.
You know
good
what?
luck, man.
It's Cassian, so Cassian, good luck to you, man.
Godspeed. It's also funny how Lucian is starting to like Rhysand in his mind. He's like, I can't help it, but I love the city, I love the people, and also it's sad because he describes the inner circle as something that he wanted with Tamlin long ago. ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's upsetting, because he did want something like this for himself.
Yeah, but then of course Tamlin didn't really have an inner circle.
Yeah, he didn't have friends. Well, and I feel like they're more family to Rhysand. Like, he has friends, but not... These are his friends, but they're family.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like I said, this is his first time fully seeing Elaine, so he can't breathe when he looks at her. He says she's the most beautiful woman he's ever seen.
That's sweet.
I didn't catch this. He describes her eyes seem to spark in his presence.
That fire?
Well, it seems that she's intrigued by him of some sort.
Right, because, like, even if she doesn't want to be part of the Fae, like, she can't necessarily, well, she can reject the mating bond, but she can't reject the fact that she feels the mating bond towards him.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I love how she's, who are you? And he's like, he like stands up straighter and formally introduces himself. I am Lucian, the seventh son of the Autumn Court.
The seventh son of the Autumn Court. He's no longer calling himself the emissary of spring.
I know. It's a difference of title. I love. It's almost like he's also trying to impress her a little bit. I'm still a High Lord son. Like,
I'm a High Lord son. I'm not just an emissary.
It's kind of cute though. It's just like, hello, lady. I am Lucian.
Which is so similar to the hello, lady. I'm Lucian, emissary of spring.
Yeah. It is true. I also do love how, so he kind of mainstreams this. He's like, fuck my father, fuck my brothers. I told Azriel everything he needed to know.
Yeah.
Besides the details about his mom. But Azriel knows everything about Autumn that he knows. I kind of do feel bad though for Lucian here. He knows full well that she doesn't like him.
But he still tries.
And that she loves, yeah. Because she's like, oh, you're Lucian. And then, oh, he gets really heated when she says his name.
He's like, ooh, yeah, I'm Lucian.
If it wasn't Lucian, that would have been like a cock switch there. Cassian had?
Yeah.
If it wasn't Lucian, that would have been more vulgar.
Yeah, definitely. But it's like, Lucian, that's me. I'm Lucian.
It's like, hi, babe. She's like, oh, you were in Hybern. Yeah, you betrayed us. Oh, shit.
Oh, shoot. That's what she remembers me for.
Because it started out good, right? He's like, oh, yeah, you're Lucian, from my sister's stories, her friend. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, you betrayed us, bitch.
No, that's not me.
I didn't really...
Technically, I didn't betray you, but I was ordered to.
Yeah, it's. I kind of feel bad for him though, because what can he say? There's nothing to say.
And if he says something like, I'm sorry. I mean, obviously, Elaine is not in the right mindset to accept that right now. Mm-hmm. But it's also like he didn't have control over it. But it's almost like he's admitting that he did.
Yeah. Also, she tells him that she can hear his heartbeat during the night. Which, is she like looking for him, or is there some more meaning to this? Because it's like, I feel like before with the other people, like, yes, they can hear each other's heart, but maybe she has better hearing. Mm-hmm. Maybe she has like supersonic hearing or something. Yeah. Because why emphasize it?
Which maybe means that like she can hear the people of Valaris.
Maybe. I also, she roasts herself pretty hard. I think we both felt this one. Because she says, I want to say verbatim, oh, do you hear my heartbeat? He says, no, lady, I cannot. And she almost starts fucking crying. She's like, no one ever does. No one ever looked. Not really. He did. He saw me. He will not now.
Wow.
End of conversation. She won that. The fact that no one ever saw her but this human did. Honestly, she's kind of right.
Yeah.
No one notices her. Not the way that they do the others.
That's true.
So she's very aware of that. Mm-hmm. But, you have to have sympathy for her. I feel like this is where I felt the sympathy. Not the wedding. The fact that there was a guy who actually saw her first instead of her sister or whoever. Yeah. She wasn't just a background character to him. Right. Because obviously, besides the mating bond, would Lucian really have looked at her first? Probably not. Jinx. So I think he also knows that. So he's like, yeah, I think I need to get out of here. There's nothing more I can say. Yeah. Like, if I say anything more, like, I might push her away more. I'm not going to risk that. Yeah. Also, so Feyre goes back into her mind, and Nesta knows immediately. This is something her and Cassian have in common. They kind of just know things. Yeah. She's like, have you ever went into my mind? He's like, no, I haven't. Nesta springs on him, though. As soon as Feyre lets the shield down, she's like, get the fuck out. He's like, oh shit, you guys were in here? Yeah, he didn't realize it either. Feyre's just but Lucian's right. Mm-hmm. But Lucian is 100% right. They need to not be up in the House of Wind anymore. Mm-hmm. They need to be where they can at least get outside. Right. I mean, technically, in the House of Wind, they could go up to, like, the sparring ring or something. They could, but they're also, like, above everybody and isolated. Yeah, true. They wouldn't be able to meet anyone up there. Well, also, the townhouse is warded, too. Nobody can winnow in there except for Rhysand and Moore. Mm-hmm. And Feyre. Right. So so it's not like anybody would just spring upon them. So they're just as safe at the townhouse.
Unless they chose to wander.
Also, now they're just cloistered with Lucian, Elaine, Nesta, and Faison living under the same roof. That's gonna be interesting.
That's one word for it.
Yeah. Also, yes, we have another lying mishap. So as carries Elaine, of course, Nesta is about to jump off the roof rather than let Cassian carry her. So Lucian goes in Cassian's arm and Nesta in Rhysand's. And Feyre, like, somehow semi, like, kind of floats down.
Yeah.
Which would be funny to see, by the way.
It would, because she's like, you know what? Going down is easier. I'm gonna practice this.
She's, like, gliding down.
Probably as really close nearby. I mean, obviously, no, not Rhys, but, like, as really close by. Yeah, that's it. Straighten out your wings. Yep. Just let the air hit it.
Well, yeah, because she flies to a certain, and then she winnows just away.
I mean,
so at some point you can winnow out of the sky.
Right, because there's a certain bubble of no winnowing around the house.
Yeah, so obviously she gets down to the house where they do.
Uh-huh.
It almost seems like Nesta's afraid of heights. Like, she's, like, afraid of flying.
Maybe, but I also wonder if Rhys actually said anything to her.
We don't know, but, I mean, I feel like he could have said something.
He could have. I mean, obviously we know, like, what he then did, but what if he, like, said something, or she said something to him, which is why he retaliated?
Well, sorry, I meant, like, even before. Like, I mean, obviously she didn't want to be in Cassian's arms, but I think she just didn't want to fly to begin with.
Oh, yeah, probably.
So, Azriel and...
She was scared of... One theory could be that she was scared of her power, so she was scared to go into the city.
Yeah, say that. So, Azriel is kind of walking this fine line, so Az and Elaine end up there first.
Mm-hmm.
He's, like, very much towing a line, bro. I thought you were into more.
Also, Elaine's mated.
Yeah, but Elaine does not balk from him. And she calls him beautiful. Good thing Lucian was not here when that just...
Yeah, that would have pissed him off.
No, I also feel bad.
Yeah.
Also, comparing yourself to Az, you're not gonna win. Like, I'm sorry.
That's true.
It's over.
That's true.
Honestly, I think at this point I was leaning more towards their pairing relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with what he talked about at the end here. It's so interesting. He asks Elaine if she wants to go to the garden with him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Be careful, Azriel.
I think there was a level of... I wasn't really shipping them, except for the fact that, you know, 3 sisters, 3 Beck boys. Like, there was that level of, oh yeah, okay, so that would make sense if they were together. But I wasn't quite shipping it. I mean, I wasn't holding hope for Lucian and her, but I also didn't quite think about Az and her together. So I wasn't quite, like, on the bandwagon, but it was more so, oh yeah, that would just, like, make sense.
The only reason I was at the point of shipping them two is because of what is said next. Because it's like, it feels like it's hella foreshadowing, and I think I know SJM at this point to know that, I'll get into it more when we talk about it, but, so then Rhysand and Nesta land, and she immediately goes to throw up.
She's like, where's the toilet?
Well, and Cassian and Lucian aren't far behind, but so it's almost like Cassian is eye rolling because he's like, oh damn, she's not going to want to fly ever again. Not in my arms.
I mean, if he was like behind Rhys, he probably saw what happened, and if Nesta screamed, he probably heard Nesta scream.
Yeah, because Liesl said beforehand, Rhys dive bombed the rest of the way because apparently she complained that he was going too slow,
spending too long in the air.
Which very brave of her to be just like, you're going too slow.
It's like, oh, actually, maybe she does like flying and she wants to go faster.
Instant karma.
Yeah.
Dude, I kind of hate how Rhys is baiting Lucian, though, because as soon as Lucian sees where Elaine went with Azriel, Rhys says, Az is not the ravishing type. It's like, I think I beg to differ on that assumption.
Yeah, he's not the ravishing type, he's the carnivorous type.
Yeah, something more than ravenous.
Which, of course, Rhys left unsaid.
I do feel bad for him, though. He literally just talked to her, and then he's like, she's off with another guy.
Already, yeah. That Illyrian that he was worried was hurting her.
So as Nesta gets out of the bathroom, her silver eyes are back as she gets mad. And Cassian immediately goes in front of Rhysand to take the brunt of her and calm her down.
As general protecting a High Lord, but also, hold on, I've been doing this, it's okay, I got this. Problem.
He's not scared of it.
He's backing up his words he said to Feyre. He's not scared of Nesta.
Very semi-romantic. Also, Lucian's just like, what are you?
Just so blunt.
So Nesta does tell them, I mean, she finally says this herself that we've all heard. Nesta tells them that she made the cauldron give her something back. So she didn't take something necessarily. it's almost like she made the cauldron give her something.
Yeah.
And I love how Rhysand describes it. He says, Nesta would not only conquer death, pillage it.
Yeah.
I love that. He also talks about, because, Lucian has flame powers. We see this silver flame. Haha.
Mm-hmm.
Her flame is ice cold as death.
Yeah.
Like, it's not hot fire.
No, which is almost a worse kind of fire.
Mm-hmm. We all wonder what happened to her in the cauldron, which we're all still wondering, and I know that's not something we're gonna figure out. Like,
yeah.
At least in this book, I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it's like, we don't really need to know what happened, but like, we just need to know what she took. Yeah. So it fast forward to them getting ready before the Hewn City tonight, and she's just spying above Asriel and laying in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
This would be if one of us had a guy over, we'd be watching each other from the balcony.
Wingmanning and observing what we can't see in the moment.
Also, I didn't even read it like this. I love the idea of just Az reading on, he's sunbathing his wings and he's lying down sprawled, just sitting next to her reading reports, and she's just content sitting there.
I imagine him laying on a bench or something, on his stomach with his wings out the sides, just relaxed and kicking his feet up in the air while reading reports.
I know. And this, again, lore alert, this is what spurs this conversation. We're all thinking the same thing as Feyre. Why not make them mates? I don't understand.
Right.
Like you said, 3 brothers for 3 sisters. I think why?
So it's gotta be some kind of sign if, the mother purposefully didn't make them mates.
Well, yeah, because then Feyre says, who decides? Who decides the mating bonds? And Rhys kind of gives her a faux answer. He's like, they don't really know. But is it fate? Is it the mother? Who is it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you obviously think it's the mother.
Yeah. Especially because they keep saying, the mother has a twisted sense of humor.
I feel like for some people, I love this idea that the mother handpicks some people, but then others are just left up to... Because how Rhys describes the mating bond is how he's described before. It was, how did you say it? Some natural function, not an indication of true paired souls. Which makes me think that with, Tamlin's parents and Rhysand's parents, there's a level of just functionality with the mating bond more than an actual pairing, which I think for Feyre and Rhysand, it's very different because it seems like they are so intertwined.
Yeah, it does feel like they're, like you said, the mother handpicks, but then the others are just equals in terms of they're made for each other, but that doesn't mean they're meant for each other. So for example, Rhys's parents, they were made for each other so that they could make Rhys because that's what fate planned or whatever. But they definitely were not meant for each other.
Correct. And I love, and I think everybody is so confused when I say this, which I never understand. I love the idea that mates aren't foolproof. It's a testament of true pair bonded souls and work to be able to keep a mating bond good. It's not just there, and it's not just, oh, you're mates, everything's perfect.
Right.
That's just not how I think of soulmates. I think soulmates exist, but I also don't think that there's a level of foolproofness to it. It's 2 people that work to make it good is what makes the true paired souls thing beautiful to me.
And it does help that Rhys and Feyre actually love each other, though.
Yeah, there's that. Other ones very much didn't have that, I don't think. I do like how we learned that there's a choice in the mating bond. That's why Rhys was so scared about, if we think back to the cabin, why he was so scared that she would reject the mating bond, because a mating bond can be rejected.
Yeah.
I will say, though, if we think Elaine is okay, I'm going back to that, who's more powerful offspring thing.
Yeah.
If that's the case, though, and they weren't handpicked, see, this is why I think they were handpicked more than they were just a function. Because if they were the most powerful people, I don't care if Elaine doesn't have any powers. She was made by the cauldron. She is powerful inherently.
Yeah.
So what does that say about Lucian?
Right.
It doesn't seem they're necessarily matched in power.
Right. But
so
part of me is wondering if it's, if Lucian doesn't have physical power, Elaine probably does, of being made by the cauldron. He's got to have something else that equates him and makes him equal with her in some sense. Because even if whether it's random or it's handpicked, there is that level that I believe in. It's complete. They're equals, that they are made for each other. So it's okay, if he's not physically up to her par, it's got to be something else. Maybe, I think I've said this a little bit in another episode of a mental kind of thing. Maybe he can reach her on a mental level, or I don't know, because he has connections in both spring and autumn. So his emissary type stuff. I guess, yeah, we don't really know, but I've got to believe that it's something related to that. There's something that makes them equal.
Which then makes me think that, honestly, this is how how I think now. I didn't think this the first time I read it, so bear with me, but I think Azrael's too powerful for her. If we're talking about in inequality terms, I don't think, I mean, maybe I'm underestimating Elaine here, but I also think Azrael needs somebody as powerful as him. And I don't think that's her. I just don't think so. But I will say, when he talk about the mating bond being severed, there's always a tug, but it seems like the women, it's easier to let go. The women aren't like fighting about it as much, but the men, it's like harder the bond to go.
Yeah, I think it's very much of like because in that sense, metaphorical scissors to cut the bond. If the women are the one that reject, they're the one cutting the bond, so they'll probably cut it closer to them, so there's less of that bond inside of them and more of the bond inside of the men. Like, I guess because I like think in pictures, that's how I'm imagining it, of, the red string of fate, the red thread. If the woman is like cutting it close to her, she's not going to have much of that red thread inside of her. Whereas it's all going to like wind up and get all messy and knotted inside the male.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I picture it when I try and describe it. Anyway, I digress.
No, you're good. Like, it's, that leads into how then he said that it's illegal in Prithian, but on the continent, it is legal for the male in the mating bond to challenge any male that tries to be with them, tries to be with the woman, and that it's like a death match.
Right.
It's like whoever is alive at the end gets to keep her. It's like, obviously Reese is like, no, that's been illegal for ages.
Yeah.
Like, Elaine will be protected, and whoever she chooses to be with will be protected if she rejects it.
Right.
But even then, even if you do cut the bond is still present. It's just severed. So there will always be some brokenness to the person.
Yeah.
Which is why Reese said that most couples just try to make it work, because it would hurt them more if they didn't.
Right.
So I love how even Reese is not putting Azrael down, but he's actually saying that Lucian is more loyal than Azrael.
Kind of makes me think that maybe Az sleeps around a bit.
Oh, hot bet. Yeah. But honestly, I feel for him. I understand. He has been pining after the same fucking girl for 500 years, and she has not given any inclination that she likes him at all. So I feel for him in that way.
Yeah.
Because, babe, the bond would have snapped into place if that was the case by now, bro.
Yeah.
It would have. They're not mates. I didn't believe in Moore and Azrael from the get-go. I was like, there's something off about that I can't really put my finger on.
I think we mentioned it last season, how Az kind of has a complex of like, hero complex of like, I saved you, that must mean we're meant to be together kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But I think he also has a level of attachment issues because he only got to see his mom like once a week, once a month, something like that. So he have very many feminine female figures in his life until he met, well, Reese's mother, obviously, but then Moore, and Moore being around their age. Oh, hey, a woman that I can talk to. Like, this is new. And then he saved her, found her in Nottingham Wood. And so then I think he built that up. And so it's like, okay, so after 500 years, Moore isn't working. So what about this other broken female that needs my help?
He's like clinging to Elaine.
He's jumping from attachment to attachment, which obviously is not healthy, but he doesn't know anything else.
So you're 100% right. I agree. But I will tell you, we both thought the same thing. We were like, Azrael, Elaine, this is perfect, but we know better. Yeah. We know better now, I think.
Obviously, I've thought about Azrael a lot, and I'm trying to figure out his character, and I still don't know all of his character.
Like the last part after they talk about the mating bond stuff, I just think it's cool how they still have this talk about, violating minds and whatever, because again, I think it's another practical thing that SJM loves to put in there that I dig, is I feel like other novels, it's just like, oh, we have all these all-powerful things and we just don't care what happens with them. Versus Feyre still, it's like a testament to Feyre's character. She still asks was this okay that I did this? Like, even though I was doing this for a purpose?
Yeah.
Which obviously I'm saying, yeah, I think your ends justified the means. I think it was valid.
Yeah, being protective.
But as she's talking, like, Reese is pinning her hair up, relationship goals.
They're just chatting and he's just casually putting her hair up. Oh.
A man who knows how to pin? Ooh.
Well, that too, but like the fact of like that domestic care where like
yes.
people feel comfortable to just talk about anything, whatever, whenever they're doing, whatever they're doing. It's just so sweet.
I could have given my ex a pin and he wouldn't know what the fuck to do with it, so. So.
Actually, that is kind of true.
He'd be like, what is this, to pick a lock? I'm like, dude, this isn't D&D. I'm telling you to put the pin in my hair.
I mean,
it's supposed to be cute.
A number of locks with bobby pins, but that is not what they're used for.
But yeah, so before we go to I had to cut it off for the Hewn City. They're all dressed up in their crowns. Let's be wicked. Lord and Lady Knight.
That's such a good
and
ending,
Feyre,
though.
I know. Feyre says, this time I get to make Kier beg. Hell yeah.
Also, really, like, this time she gets to play an evil role. Like, she hasn't played an evil role ever.
Oh. She gets to create her own narrative for going.
Yeah, she finally.
And I dig that.
I do love this time I get to make Kier beg. It's like, because they expect that Kier is gonna probably cause some trouble, and she kind of, I think, wants to get him back, other than, of course, Rhys breaking his arms. Like, she wants to get her back in her own way. Get him back in.
Oh, yeah. 100%. So, obviously, this lore had to happen, and we got the Carver scene, so that's great. But next week is gonna be the Hewn City, bro.
It's gonna be insane.
So yeah, that's all I have for the deep dive section for today.
Yep, so now we're gonna go on to our second section, where we talk about the graphic audio, which I have listened to up to this point.
Oh, you've listened up. Oh,
so I have caught up this time. I've listened up to this point. So yeah, welcome to Tally's Corner. Take it away.
Ooh, okay. No, that makes me happy because you'll know what I'm talking about. It's good and bad in both ways. I think there's perks to both things.
Yeah.
So great. So if we go back to chapter 19 at the start of this with Feyre waking up and before Cassian. Also, Melody Muse Feyre at the top of the chapter was hilarious. The narration was funny because she's just like, I don't know how I don't know if I can replicate it, but she's just like, ooh, 2 Illyrians in one morning making me sweat. I'm like, me too, girl, me too.
So that is a line. When I read that the first time, all right, I see what you're doing there, Sarah.
I also love how she comes to play Cassian Wood, and then Cassian just completely comes in mad.
It's like they switched
also
for a minute.
Not gonna lie, John, bro. I now this is where we start lingering to both Anthony and John are hot as hell voices, but we're getting more Cassian now. So also Cassian's his anger voice is somehow deeper.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And it's still...
I mean, I noticed, that's a thing, sometimes people do is, when they're happy or joking around, their voice, fluctuates. It fluctuates more, but it's also typically a higher pitch, unless they're teasing, which in that case, it deepens low, really low. But yeah, to be able to hear, that difference between his usual kind of teasing and happy and playful to, no, I'm actually mad. It's like, oh shit, it's getting serious.
Hot as fuck, though. I'm still just gonna say. It was great. It's great. The other thing that I really, really loved was the music that was under Cassian's story about Under the Mountain. It was a very sad... Also, his voice broke a couple times. The 2-week thing I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Hearing nothing. It's and then it was just silence. His voice broke and I was like, John!
Which is exactly how I read it. I totally imagined, he'd have that underlying anger, but mostly just sadness and that extra little level of fear.
Again, snaps all around to these voice actors for somehow putting so many emotions into a voice. I appreciate it. Also, I'm gonna give props. I actually know your name now. I'm so sorry before. Sean. I was about to say Shane. Jesus Christ. I know his name.
First and last name.
I know his name, Shane. No, it's not Shane. His name's Sean, who does Azriel's voice, and he's so pretty. It's not as rough as Cassian's, but I was genuinely happily surprised. Really say this as much in the first season, just because we weren't doing this much. But I wanted to say, I think his voice is so pretty and perfect for Azriel.
It's a dark and deep kind of voice, but it's also smooth. It's very smooth.
Yes.
And at first it seems like it doesn't have too much fluctuation. It's not necessarily monotone, but it doesn't have too much fluctuation in emotion at first. But then the more you listen to it, it's oh, actually I'm starting to notice these little things. And it's just done.
And that's so Azriel. To have sort of a monotone voice, but to fluctuate at times.
And the more you get to know Azriel, the more you understand him. Just like his voice. So, I mean, we all know I'm a little biased, but it really is perfect for him.
You also really like Sean's voice when we first.
Yes. And I realized I did a little bit more research and I have listened to other audiobooks that he's done. So that's why it's fucking familiar to me.
I did the same with Gabriel and Anthony, so no worries. And Melody too. I think the last part of, the end of chapter 19 where they're Azriel is teaching her how to open and shut her wings. I loved the sound because the reason I like the sound is because it sounds leathery instead of fluffy. Which is the whole, that's the whole point. I love the detail. It wasn't just a passing wing sound. It was leather.
Right.
Which I hella appreciated.
Yeah.
So those were kind of my ones in chapter 19. I think chapter 20, the whole library scene. I love how extra dramatic. This whole chapter was extra dramatic with the music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a change of music at every turn. I love how extra it sounded when talking about the books. It sounded so fantasy. I love the music when they're walking through the library. All the different music points were really good.
Yeah.
But not overpowering. I think it was more like, oh god, this is like a typical cinema scene, is what I'm thinking.
Very cinematic, yeah. But like a soft cinema.
And, girl, Anthony strikes again with the library scene. Just the progression of just going from like a very soft boy of sounding, you know, I'm glad to share this place with you, whatever, to this deep, let's see if I can haul you between the stacks and see how quiet. It's like,
yeah.
please.
It was a very smooth
save my fucking sanity. It's gone. It's like especially the haul between the stacks line. I was like, Jesus Christ. Also, I just want to, you know, add to Melody too. Like, hearing Anthony and Melody play back and forth with each other is so fun. Because they're just so Feyre Rhysand, like, you know.
Yeah. They've always played well together as Feyre and Rhys, and throughout the audiobook that I've listened to, I mean, up to this point, so everything previous, they just have always played together, and they just fit together.
Yeah, and that's just good casting on the company's end. And now I just see them as Rhysand and Feyre.
Yeah.
So then, chapter 21. So when Feyre is going to see Amren and Nesta, there's a clock sound in the background, and because the text mentions it, like, all you can hear, because it's so silent between Amra and Nesta training, all you can hear is clock sounding.
It definitely adds to the scene, like, it pulls the scene together.
Oh yeah, because it's constant. This whole time that she's with Amren, it's there, and I like how it's constant. It's not just for that 1 second.
Yeah.
Ooh, the nightmare scene in this chapter was really good, especially the transition into it, along with Melody's narration. The reason the transition was cool because it went from Feyre monologuing to all of a sudden this transition music, or not transition music, but a transition sound to, oh, I haven't been back here. And there was kind of an echo with her voice.
Oh, yeah.
And it honestly sounded like she was back in the throne room of Under the Mountain. The audio was the same. Throne room scene was...
that's a good way that the graphic audio does the nightmares, is it literally transports you to whatever place the nightmare is happening.
And it was so creepy and epic. Hearing Elaine scream, that was pretty wild.
Flashbacks to Hybern much? Yeah.
Also, Anthony, after the nightmare, dude, because it's at first he sounds commanding. He's like, breathe again. Like, there's okay, sir, I'll breathe for you.
I mean, there's no room for fear at that point.
I know, but also just like the hand on the back, you could hear the hand on the back. Oh. Also, I love that this is where the graphic audio ends. This chapter of Never Again, it ends with Never Again, and then the first part of the graphic audio ends.
While it sucks that there's 3 different parts, it's still also good timing, at least.
Yes. I have 19 graphic audios, and I will tell you, ACOTAR does a good job of choosing when to end them. I will tell you, and you know, I'm sorry for anybody in the Fourth Wing, but I hated where that first section ended. It like ended right in the middle of a scene, and I was like, oh my god, it was a terrible place to end.
Right.
So that was a terrible person on the director's part for ending it there, but anyway, it's not the actor's fault. So then the second part of the graphic audio at the top of 22, right at the top of the chapter, honestly, the music was so Hewn City-like, and I know we're getting ready to go to the Hewn City, but it was very, like, similar to the music we heard down there. It was very eerie. I mean, because obviously they're going to the prison at this point, but I like how it started like that. I don't know why, but John Cassian at the top of the chapter just made me so happy, and I can't really tell you why. I wanted to write it down, because him talking and monologuing about the old gods and everything, just his deep guttural voice and general-esque nature, I'm just like, okay, Poppy, okay, I see you.
Okay, Poppy.
Yeah, I know that was cringy, but that's what I saw. I also really love the empty sound of prison. When they go down, it's just, you don't hear anything. It's just this very empty, reverberating sound. So awesome.
Yeah, very,
and also,
in a weird way, nostalgic, even though we've only been there once.
It's like, we remember it so vividly, though, if you've listened to the graphic audios. Like, yes, I remember this. Also, whoever does the Bone Carver's voice is just spot on. It's so creepy. I loved the whole Nesta thing. Like, I don't know how they would have played that, because obviously in the text it looked a little weird, but he did it. I don't know if person who does the Bone Carver's voice is a man or a woman, or is neither. I don't know, but I don't know if they're more female voiced or more male voiced, is all I'm saying.
It's cool to, like, that we can't really, like, tell.
I know.
An extra level of creepiness.
Oh, yeah. Because it's like ancient and not and da-da-da, whatever they said the first time we went to the prison.
Mm-hmm.
But I also love the creepy music underneath when he's talking about Nesta.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the sea called to me or whatever. It was like this very epic sounding revelation music is all I can describe it as.
Yeah.
So then, of course, in chapter 23, continuing with the Carver scene, I love the changes in the Carver's voice. And this only happened this time because he sounds like he's scared of his siblings. And you could tell that from the audio.
Which is like, okay, for one death god to be scared of others. Definitely little brother vibes.
Because it was the one line I'm specifically remembering. He's like, they're death gods, girl. Like how he was so scared.
I was not expecting him to like say that.
I thought, like, in my head, he sounded calm throughout, but it makes sense. Why not? Oh, I also, girl. I loved the Ouroboros music. Like, when he starts describing it, it was so, I don't know, it was, again, so fantasy, but I feel like it was so princess-like somehow. I think that's why it reminded me of Snow White. Not like pretty princess music. I'm talking of like the creepy Disney music. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That makes a little bit more sense than like, princess.
I equate Disney with princess music.
Yeah, that makes sense for you, but yeah. But yes, very Disney, kind of evil Disney, tense.
Yeah. So I loved that. And of course, I always love, I mean, I know we said this to Anthony, but, you know, John, if you're listening, I love the fact that he can just, especially Cassian, the overexerted male, can be so soft.
Yeah.
And just Nesta, like, I'm not afraid of her. He was just so soft when he said it. Like, he's like, I've been walking next to death my whole life. There's nothing, like, it was so soft. And then what was the line? Sorry. Nothing could make me afraid of her.
Which I always admire when a guy is able to change their voice like that. Oh, to have levels. So they're not always one specific way. And also, I think reading it versus hearing it, that line of like, I've been walking along death my whole life. Like the fact that, I mean, obviously he's aware of it, but so self-aware that literally from his birth, he's been struggling and fighting and he could have died at any moment. And then he's been fighting. He became a general, still could die at any moment. He fought in the war. So I think it's hard to explain, but like, other than I love it that he equates that all of that bullshit that he went through made him stronger. And so that's why he's not scared of Nesta, because he's been through all that shit. So Nesta is not nothing compared to everything, but he's prepared for it. At least he thinks he is.
Yeah, I agree. And also that's just cute when a guy can do that. That's why do you think I love voice actors so much? Anyway, I love you guys.
Call me.
Yeah, call me. Some of you have my number. Sorry. Anyway, so then chapter 24, the last one. I mean, I will give Elaine's, I feel bad, I don't know her name. I will give Elaine's voice actor credit for this one, for this scene. Like, I was surprised at how, and I didn't say this last episode, but I want to say how surprised I was about Elaine's voice. When they talk about her and how neutral she sounds, I thought she would sound more, like in my head before, I thought she would sound more depressed. She sounds like she has no emotions at all. It is spot on. Just, I can hear your heartbeat. I can see the sea. Monotone. It's spot on, especially from how she was different than in the previous books, about how very energetic she was compared to now. It is like, very different.
It reminds me of, I saw this like acting challenge TikTok the other day that was like a comparison of like real acting, quote unquote real acting, versus like how people think acting actually is. And it's like the real side, or sorry, the acting side is over exaggerated everything, super like lots of hand movements and facial features and anger and stuff. But really, as the specific scene was like an angry scene of like, why did you do this? You've hurt me, that kind of scene. And then on the other side, the real acting side is like someone just completely still and frowning with maybe like a subtle like head nod or one hand gesture or something, and just very in the person itself rather than trying to perform. So that's like what I equated to it.
And I could go on for hours with you to tell you the difference between stage acting and TV acting and voice acting. Like, they all have different skills. Like, you know, in theater acting, you have to be more eccentric because you have to be playing for the back row.
Right.
When you're like on a TV show or in a movie, like, you're not obviously giving as more facial and big expressions because you have a camera.
Right.
And then with voice acting, there's no face, so you can kind of do whatever you want, but it has to all be in the voice, and you have to all get everything in a voice because there is no visual. So they all have their own skill sets. Yeah. And they all hit it it's spot on. So I agree with you. And she's not overact as well, so that's good.
That's true. Because
she could have sounded like some fucking Eeyore character where it's like, my wedding. That's not how she sounds, though. That's not how it was described to sound.
Oh, nobody loves me because I don't get to go to my wedding. Man, I relate to Eeyore so much some days, though.
We all do. Especially this week. But oh my god, Gabriel at the first talking, he is so sweet with Elaine, which, because I know his Xaden, it feels so, Xaden does not give a fuck, while as like Lucian is like the sweetest character, and the change of voice is so amazing.
Yeah.
He is so sweet as shit with her, because he's like, but I love how he's like, mate claim. And then,
yeah.
And then going through the rest of it, it's like, she's mine. And then I love the echo with Lucian's inner monologue, because that's how we can tell that she's seeing it through his eyes.
Mm-hmm. Which is a little bit what we've in Mist and Fury, when she accidentally slipped into his mind.
I also just love how Gabriel introduced himself. Like, that whole awkward thing was so much more funny, because you could hear the rustle of clothes while he straightened.
Yeah.
And it was like, just like, I am Lucian. And like, there was a change of voice. And it was so good. It was so cute. And then when she said, Lucian, I kind of stopped when I heard her voice, because I was like, oh, it was very cute.
At least she is speaking to him, though.
And that was the first word that had a bit of emotion to it.
Yeah. So it's like she's had the spark in her eye, and then she had some kind of emotion in her word, even if it then took a very sharp turn.
Well, because this is, if anything, it kind of brings up what you said, though, about Rhysand and Feyre, where, like, any emotion was good emotion last book. Even though it sucks seeing it, Lucian actually got her to show emotion.
Yeah.
Somehow. I also love how she got more rough with her word, because I don't think I was expecting that from her. It was a pleasant surprise, because it went from Lucian, she was remembering Lucian, Feyre's friend, or my sister's friend. And he went, yeah, that's who I am. And like, Gabriel got so excited. He's like, yes, it's me. She's like, you were in Highburn. You betrayed us. Like,
yeah.
The change of voice was so sharp.
Also, Elaine never gets angry from our past experience.
I loved it. I was like, anything to make her character a little bit more interesting. Yeah, sorry. I loved that, honestly. And then how I could just feel Gabriel slumping as Lucian is monologuing of just, yeah, that was me. Like,
yeah.
Also, I don't say this enough, but I do love the kind of transition noises. I don't even know how to, like, describe it, but it's kind of like a wash.
Washes are whooshes that are like, if you imagine video editing of like a screen sliding.
Yeah.
Sliding, and it's like, okay, we're done here. Let's move on to this next scene.
In those really shitty transitions that you get on like Microsoft PowerPoint.
Yeah. or just even
just like we're changing
like Google Slides or something.
Changing from one scene to the other. Like, but it's in a good way, not in the shitty way.
Right.
I will say that really the end of the scene where they bring her to the town, where they bring them to the townhouse, the only thing that really made me laugh was hearing Nesta retch in the background, because it wasn't like a full-blown, you could hear the throw up. She was just retching.
Right.
But like nothing came up.
Probably she hasn't been eating enough.
Also, just anytime Lucian looks at Nesta, just like, what are these? Like, what do you think?
He didn't say that about Amryn. Why is Nesta doing that?
No, he bowed to Amryn, dude.
Yeah.
He should probably bow to Nesta if he feels that insecure.
Honestly, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's all I had for the graphic. You had any other things that you wanted to add?
Not anything specific, just like overall, just I always love the musics of them, and you know, I don't often comment on them, mostly because you do a great job about like picking out the certain switches, but just overall, like I'm someone who connects on a level with music, and music helps me guide my feelings. So like, the fact that, you know, fits so well with how the story flows, that's just one of my favorite parts about it.
Yeah, I agree. This is just us being audio people. A graphic audio just makes us, I mean, I already liked the narration, but it just adds such more of an element to it. Yeah. And also adds like a little bit of character choice, which I just love, because anyone could have played that Elaine scene differently. Someone could have played it over the top and depressed and whatever, and that would have been their choice. But I think this cast does a good enough job being very, very, they keep to the character.
Yes, yeah.
And I really appreciate that. Because they have moments where they choose something and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, but it's never like so outside the ballpark that this is not that character. So I really appreciate that. But that's all I had for today. So we'll see some of you in our next episode, next big main episode, but where we'll go to the Hewn City. But we'll see some of you in our next spoilery section, where we're going to be talking about a lot of the different themes that was brought up through these sections in particular. So we're excited for that.
Yep.
We'll see some of you for chapters 25 to the end of chapter 29 in our next episode, but we'll see some of you in The Powers That Bind Us. That's the next mini episode. So I'm excited for that. But,
I am too.
Please again, follow TikTok, Patreon. We have 3 members on Patreon now. It's so great. 2 of them are our parents, but it's still, they're still part of the community. So please, if you really want to see more stuff with us.
That, we're doing enough that our parents would like to join us.
And support us, our other Patreon member is Madison. Hi, we love you. So please come join our community if you can. You can follow as a free member, or you can follow as either tier. We'll try to put some more free stuff if that's something that you guys would like. And again, please comment or subscribe or follow Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and all that good stuff as well.
And something else that we'll be offering for free on Patreon to the public is a live stream once a month. So
we'll post when we're having our live stream. We're going to be trying to start doing once a month. Please follow that. And I hope you guys stay happy and healthy, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.